Committee meeting. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. By way of introductions, my name is Kristen Harmeling. I'm the chairman of the Finance Committee, and to my right is
Chris Champagne, Finance Committee member.
Beth Nigeria.
Finance Committee member.
Okay, and the first order of business is to call for public comment. So if there's anybody in the public who would like to make a comment specifically related to our Finance Committee or our budget district finances, please do so now. Anybody wish to make a public comment going twice? Any public comment for the Finance Committee meeting? Hearing no public comment, I'll close public comment session, and we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, discussion and possible action to recommend to the full board the approval of the financial management summary. So as per our usual method of doing business in this committee, I would like to turn it over to Sal. Sal, in the event we can't hear you too well, we'll do the best we can. So thank you so much for calling in from what is your vacation. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Kristen. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I can actually see all of you on the screen, so I'm going to at least be able to follow from my end.
Right.
This month's report, we are making progress with this year's financial affairs. We've picked up some ground over where we were last month. Last month we were approximately, we were working down a deficit that started at 800 in December. We were down to about 590 last month. This month we're down to about 512. What we're doing is we're doing a comprehensive review from top to bottom. So during the month of February, we spent a fair amount of time analyzing staffing positions, grants, and trying to make a determination as to whether or not, going back to July, we were in fact properly charging off not only salaries but employee benefits to the grants were appropriate. Okay, so again, I just want to caution that, this is something that should have been going on going back as far as July, but obviously in the absence of a full-time business manager, it was just not something that was getting done for several months. We picked up this month in the certified staff category almost $100,000 worth of surplus. So we're projecting at this point for the remainder of the year a certified staff surplus of about $149,000. In the non-certified staff category, last month we had projected roughly $265. What's going on here is largely in the paraeducators and the fact that we really have a number of unfilled positions in that area, and therefore it's creating for us, obviously, a surplus. Now, some of that is being picked up, obviously, from certified staff, I would imagine, but those costs are already reflected. The employee benefit situation is relatively unchanged over last month. The two biggest drivers, again, were the health insurance premiums, which we've whittled down a little bit to about $400,000 in terms of a deficit. And again, some of that is due to the proper classification of benefits for those people who are grant eligible staffing positions. And the other big item, of course, is the significant underfunding in MRF and the pension contributions. Again, the narrative essentially tells you that last year we were at $605,000. The budget for this year was $437,000, and we're looking probably to come in, in the high sixes on MRF. And again, as I've said in the past, there's really not much we can do. If you have a position, if it's MRF eligible, you pay your 16.44% on gross wages. And that's about it. As we did last month in the January report that we delivered in February, I had created a new category in this report called energy. In the past, you may have recalled that electricity, heating fuel, and bus fuel were included in the supplies category, which also had office supplies, instructional supplies, custodial supplies, and whatnot. It just didn't seem to make any sense for those items to be there. So we created a new category. We called it energy. It contains two components of the electricity expenditure, and this is on page 2 of 3 of the detail. One of which is the 2 of 4, I mean. One of which, or actually it's page 3 of 4. I'm looking at a different copy. So we're running, at a benefit for the year in terms of the actual usage. So the usage for the year is projected out at $549,000 versus last year's $587. Obviously, that's the result of the solar panels that are now in place and presumably working. The other component was the $260,000 that we paid out last summer against the solar bond payment. Again, the budget we have, the 809-252 budget, is a function of doing the 3% escalation over the base year of 2019. So if it's more than 549, then obviously we're going to be over budget. But my guess is we may not be at 549 for the year, in which case there would be a slight surplus. But I think we're pretty much going to be on budget. We're not projecting any more than a surplus of $5,000 for the entire energy category based on where we are going this year. Infrastructure services, I put into that category communications. That used to stand alone. It seemed an oddball to be standing by itself. It's now part of infrastructure. Infrastructure is essentially running, pretty much true to form. The one big area where we've been over budget is equipment repair and maintenance. These are just situations that arise. They're unanticipated. After discussions with Tim Connors, we're really not spending money in areas that we would like to spend money on, doing discretionary type projects. We are essentially utilizing our funds to make repairs, as things go, wrong. And when you have older equipment, older buildings, et cetera, obviously things break. Transportation. We got a preliminary report back from All-Star Transportation on what they would like to allow us for a credit for all of all the routes we didn't run, all the combined routes that we had. I think it's sorely lacking. They were offering us a 45% credit against the daily run. It's arbitrary. If you're not going to make the daily run, I don't know why it's 45%. We are going to continue to pursue this with them. We also have to set up a meeting with the Facilities Transportation Committee because the bus contract comes up for renewal on July 1. I think part and parcel of those discussions in the RFP going forward is going to be to try to come to some positive resolution on this. What we've put in the budget, I've reduced the credit that I had in there from the prior month down to $100,000, which is realistic based on what we have anticipated based on the calculations we're getting from the bus company. But I do believe we need to be more aggressive with them in terms of them giving us due credit for not running. There's nothing in the contract that refers to this 45%. They made an offhanded comment that other districts were happy with this. I mean, I'm not sure whether I could gauge my happiness based on somebody else's, but I don't particularly think 45% is an adequate amount of credit. The other big item in the budget, of course, is always tuition. We did receive $551,000 at the end of February against our excess cost recovery grant, which I was projecting last month would be upwards of $700,000. The 551 looks to be on track for that because last year we got it in 2 installments. We received 500 and change in one, and then about another 150 in another, and we received a total of 675 last year. So in this report, I've reduced the tuition overage, which prior to doing so was $807,000. We were over budget. So that reduces the tuition budget down to approximately a $200,000 shortfall, which, again, I'll remind you, is also part and parcel of the $189,000 last-minute change that the Board of Finance made to the budget last year, all of that was taken out of the tuition budget. So we would be pretty much on track were it not for that $189,000. I took another $50,000 and applied that as a credit against transportation, because transportation also includes line items for special ed, to transportation for out-of-district students, and part of the excess for cost recovery grant is the combination of tuition and transportation. So there really are two components to that. That leaves $50,000 of the potential $700,000 that we may see that has yet to be credited against, this year's potential shortfall. So there is some wiggle room there, and the reason that I left that there is because any student that comes in district now after March 1, we bear all of the costs of that. So if we were to incur any one-time costs, and what I mean by one-time costs is we essentially are responsible for the first $72,000 or so of a out-of-district student's tuition and transportation. The mindset when you file the reports first in December 1 and secondly on March 1 is that you're not going to incur after March 1 $72,000 of accumulated costs for the remaining months of the year, and so therefore they close it out. And I believe we will probably get upwards of that $700,000 by the end of the year, and we may see a few more dollars to apply against our budget for this year. Other than that, the supplies category is essentially $99,000 over budget, mostly textbook and curriculum materials. We're going to obviously examine that to see whether or not any of that was originally destined to be part of a grant. So we do have some more work to do to, again, continue to scrub these accounts to make sure that we've got everything going into the either the proper, local account or grant account. That's my report. I'll take any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you so much, Sal. I just want to say that the report continues to get better and better every month. It becomes clearer, it becomes more transparent, and for that, we thank you. Chris, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Beth, where'd Beth go?
Exit.
Okay. I have one question, Sal, on the check register. I'm seeing a check for Regional School District number 14. Is that for Nanawag, or what is that for?
That's, we have a vocational program going on in Nanawag, and so what I'm guessing is that that's a special education check that was written for paying tuition for students who are going to Nanawag.
But it's not special education. It's
We
regular
have
ed.
Nanawag, we have Emmett and Ansonia, we have Platt.
They're not special ed, they're vocational.
Right. Okay, that's fine. I just want to clarify that
They're
Region 14 is
vocational
not
technical students, yes. Okay, thank you. That's good clarification.
Okay.
But I move to recommend the full board the approval of the March 7th financial summary.
And I will second that motion. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay, do you have a second public comment period? Yeah. Are there any superintendent remarks?
I would just like to mention and just reiterate some very quick things that Mr. Bucci said. One of the things that we would like to schedule, and we'll also say when the full board is here, I think you mentioned it as well, Kristen, the need to bring the board committees together. Maybe we can look at our calendars and look at one evening where we can have at least 3 different committees. The facilities and transportation committee is very important that we get going in regards to the bus contract, as well as discussing future HVAC with the high school with this move with central office. The other situation also with the liaison committee in regards to the contracts, we need to be meeting as well, and that also involves money, which the finance committee as well will be a part of having some input. but the liaison committees will need to be meeting soon as well. And also, I think it would be good to bring the finance committee back together and maybe have a special call meeting to bring closure on going forward with the budget percentage and to bring closure on that. I would like to say that our meeting last Wednesday I felt was very successful. You two might want to comment on that, or just in general. I thought we had a good dialogue with Bill Sawicki, the chair of the Town Finance Committee, as well as First Select Woman Anne Marie. Thought the meeting went well, and both of you were present, as well as myself and Roy. So I thought it was a very productive meeting, a very honest meeting, and basically supportive.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It was supportive in terms of both the current fiscal year that we're in as well as next year. And if there's one takeaway that I had from that meeting is we're all in this together. We're tracking similarly. We both have the same health insurance company. We both face the same rising rates in terms of electricity or gas bill or whatever it is. So the idea that was sent from town hall that we're all in this together was very encouraging because it's the truth, right? We are all in this together. Any comments from members? Nope? Okay.
Sums it up.
All right. If there is any public comment, I would welcome public comment. This is the Finance Committee meeting. The regular Board of Education meeting will start in about 10 minutes or so, but if anyone has a comment that they would like to share with the Finance Committee of the Board of Education, I welcome you to step forward and give name, address, and comment. Yes.
My name is Jen Giuseppe. I'm a resident of Seymour, 26 Collins Street Extension. I just want to let you guys know, I sent out over 100 pages today to Ansonia, revising their entire charter system, which includes all grants. So hopefully within the next few weeks, if everything goes through well, any grants the Seymour school system needs, I will be able to show you guys how to do the paperwork properly with the words that they need, so you guys can get approved for any type of funding that you require. I just want to let you guys know. So in a few weeks, if everything goes through, I'll send an email to the superintendent, and we'll take it from there. All right? Thank you.
Anyone else like to make a comment during the Finance Committee? Yes, thank you.
Hi, yes. My name is Carol Bordenaro. I live at 21 in Seymour, obviously. I was prepared to do this public comment for the Board of Education meeting, but I actually think, ironically, since I'm here for finance, it's better suited for you guys. So if you don't mind, I'd like to share it for you. So earlier today, I had sent an email to Dr. Compton and then members of the board sharing some of my thoughts just on our new fiscal year, and it sounds like that's what you guys were just discussing today. So my apologies for not coming earlier, but I feel like I'm in the right place at the right time. So as a taxpayer, parent, and experienced school psychologist, I feel, it's always upsetting to discuss the removal of any staff due to budget restrictions. I understand that they're necessary, and I really appreciate our Board of Education's efforts unanimously to support Dr. Compton as she really tries her best with her initial budget to have no additional cuts. However, obviously tonight at the Board of Education meeting, I did see on plan the proposal to get rid of a few teachers and a school counselor as a result of that removal of the COVID-related federal grant, which is no longer money that we have access to. And I just want to express my concern with that. And I understand it's a difficult thing and we all need to work together, but I feel like with my background, I'd like to just share a few points that I want us to just take into consideration as we move forward in these challenges. So I'm concerned specifically how the reduction with 2 teachers at the elementary level is going to impact the kids' class restructuring. My reason for that is that teachers are really the most impactful on our students' learning, and our kids are in dire need of their teachers, especially ever having been through one of the most difficult 2 years that we've had really in public education history here. It's my belief that at no point should we be discussing class size increases, as that's the opposite of what all the research suggests. Additionally, I think we all need to be very cognizant of the social emotional crisis that our students are facing across the country right now. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted all of us in significant ways, but most especially our children's education has been severely disrupted. Personally, I've witnessed my own children and heard countless similar situations in which students' academic growth and social emotional skills have been negatively impacted due to the lack of consistency and stress over these past 2 years. As many of my fellow community members have already previously mentioned at other Board of Education meetings, I too share their belief it's time for us to all focus our efforts on our students' academic, social, and emotional well-being, as I believe that we all are here doing and discussing. Research shows that smaller class size is one of the few educational reforms proven to work to improve outcome for all students. Decreasing class sizes not only narrows the achievement gap among students, it also yields a host of cognitive and non-cognitive benefits. In fact, the Institute of Education Sciences, one of the main U.S. Department of Education research organizations, concludes class size decrease is one of only 4 evidence-based reforms that have been proven to increase academic achievement while adhering to the gold standards of research. The STAR experiment in Tennessee, as well as countless other state studies, also demonstrate that students who are assigned to smaller classes in the early grades in particular do better in every way that can be measured. They score higher on tests, receive better grades, and exhibit improved attendance. In fact, estimates are that reducing class size in early grades shrinks the achievement gap by 38%. In Tennessee, the benefits of class size reduction in the early grades also lasted throughout a student's educational career. These students who attended smaller classes in early grades were significantly ahead of their regular class peers in all subjects in later grades as well. Students had lower dropout rates, higher grades, and received better results on their college entrance exams. Additionally, reducing teacher-student ratio also enhances the development of non-cognitive skills that are not captured on our tests, such as self-esteem, motivation, and persistence, which are also linked to success in school and in life. Alan Kerger, chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, has estimated that every dollar invested in reducing class size yields $2 in benefits. This does not take into account savings from lower rates of grade retention or special education referrals, both of which fall when class sizes are lowered and social emotions are supported in our schools. No one wants to discuss the removal of any staff due to budget restrictions, but we need to be mindful of staff reduction that is least impactful to our students, now more than ever. Our children are the future of this community, and our focus should always be on protecting their educational and social emotional well-being. With the stress and lack of educational continuity over the past 2 years, I urge all of us representing the town to continue to be mindful of these needs of our students so that our budget restrictions are not impacting our children the most. They are our future, and it is up to us to be able to voice our opinion to our town so that we can do what's best for our students' educational needs. Thank you.
Anybody else like to make a public comment in the Finance Committee meeting? Going one more time, any public comment for the Finance Committee meeting? And last call for public comment. Okay, hearing none, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order. It's 7:32. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up we have Section 2 recognitions. I'm assuming I'm handing this over to you, Dr. Compton?
We would just like first to start out, now most of it you'll be doing along with so Mr. Freud will be making the recognition presentation as well. I'd like to start off, first of all, with Board Appreciation Month. For those of you that are in the audience, you know that these 9 board members here receive no money for serving on this board. This is all volunteer service, and the state of Connecticut is using this month to honor all school board members on each and every board in Connecticut. Used to always be done in January, but basically, I think at this time now, they're honoring in March. I was always used to January as the month to recognize. Tonight, you will find a very nice candy bar that has a very nice saying on it. It was prepared by Leanne, and it's from both of us in appreciation to the outstanding service and dedication that you provide to our staff and our students of the Seymour School District. So thank you above and beyond for your years of service. Some of you are brand new, and we hope that you will serve for many years to come as well. But again, thank you for your devoted service. And we thought a little candy, it's always nice to be sweet. May not be the healthiest thing to eat, but everybody likes chocolate. So I just wanted to say that. In regards with our food service people tonight, if we have anybody that is present, Cindy, would you please come up? We have certificates, and I'd like for Cindy as well to do the presentations. It's very important tonight. Our food service people have went above and beyond the call of duty, and this happened before I came to Seymour, all the way back in March 2020, when the schools were shut down, March the 13th, whenever Governor of the United States basically said we're closing because of the pandemic. These people have went above and beyond the call of duty of making sure that our children have meals. And Cindy, what you've done has been phenomenal. Your staff, your food service managers, and all the people who make it possible. You never stopped. There's sometimes they don't always get all the supplies. You know, trucking has been an issue with the trucks and getting the supplies. It's affected everybody, but I just want to say thank you for the tremendous job. We have lovely certificates to present tonight, so Mr. Champagne, if you would come up, Mr. Hatfield as well. This was one of the things that Jay had recommended. He said, Dr. Compton, we need to recognize these people tonight. And he had actually mentioned it several months ago, but we thought this month would be more appropriate. And at this time, I will now turn it over to you for the presentation. But thank you for your service. You never gave up. You never stopped feeding our kids. And the good thing too this year, and I would still say, is everybody eats free. I think that's wonderful. And we don't know what Congress is going to do, but I hope they'll do it for one more year. I haven't heard, maybe you'll have the latest update. Not sure if that's going to be possible.
The latest update I have is that every year we have a legislative conference in Washington, D.C., where we go up to the Hill and talk to all our congressional people. This year, our push is to extend the USDA waivers to continue with free meals for all children for the school year 2022-23, thank you. Getting a little pushback right now, but so far we've got over 80,000 letters that we have sent to Congress nationwide. So I'm very hopeful. But in the event that this doesn't happen, I'm going to do a shameless little plug right now. Every year, free and reduced meal applications go home. I encourage you, whether the meals are free for the year next year or not, I strongly encourage that you fill out the applications and send it in. It's important to the school district, and most of all, it's important to all of you, because if you do qualify for free or reduced price meals, there are additional benefits that you may be awarded through the state, such as in the past 2 years. So please fill out those applications. I'm very proud of my staff, all of them. I have a few of them here with us tonight. Some of them are probably in bed because they get up very early, especially the high school staff. But tonight, the high school I have with us tonight is Barb from Mementi. A deli person at the high school. Also, at the middle school, I have Angie Berthold, and she's also my deli person. They've been in this position for a very long time where the students will go through the line and they don't even have to say, oh, turkey and cheese with jalapeno peppers or whatever. They know automatically as soon as they get there. I don't think Gabby is here. I also have Barbara Tucci, who is the manager at Chatfield Lopresti School, and 36 years, she's a lifer. And I also would like to recognize, I don't know where she's hiding, Jennifer Seminetti. She's my office assistant, so she's my right-hand person. I don't know what I would do without her, so Jennifer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
At this time, we would like to recognize our custodians, those that might be with us tonight. I don't think Tim's here, is he? Yeah. I don't think Mr. Connors is with us. He's been very busy today. I was with him earlier. Do we have any of our custodians with us tonight? So what we plan on doing, let's just talk about it for a few minutes and we'll make special delivery to the schools. We may see again next month, maybe that a few can come back. So we'll try to do that next month. But again, our custodians have been tremendous during COVID. The cleaning, what they've done has just been unbelievable. And like I said, this has went on for 2 years. Just always above and beyond, and you know what a great job that our custodians do. And also kudos to Tim Connors and for his leadership as the Director of Facilities. Okay? So we'll ask him to come back. Okay, let's go next to our valedictorian and salutatorian. I'd like with these awards, Ed, would you step out with Mr. Champagne as well with these 2 awards? Be good? Both of you? Mr. Croy, I'm going to give you the honor to introduce the very top student and the second top student at Seymour High School. This is such an honor to be the top 2 students of the class of 2022. And again, these are quite 2 young ladies that are quite the scholars. And I thought it would only be definitely right for the principal, Mr. Freud, to give this awards to both of these young ladies. And again, we're extremely proud of them and what they've accomplished.
And they'll both have a speech they give during graduation, so we put them on the spot a little bit. I'll start with the salutatorian, this is number 2 in the class. Now it's Victoria Sorrentino.
This means a lot. Once upon a time, I was top of my class, but we won't go there. I don't want to tell my age.
Okay, what an honor. 1, 2, 3, thank you.
And,
Okay.
of course, see you tomorrow morning. And the valedictorian is Michaela Zedek.
Congratulations again.
Their futures are bright. I can't wait to see what they do.
Parents. No parents here?
If the parents could come up with their daughters and with Mr. Champagne and Mr. Edstermello. This is special. I know some of the moms couldn't come tonight. It's Dad's night.
A board member on either side, or you guys will be together?
Yeah, that would be good.
Bookends. Okay, that's lovely. Thank you.
Next is a very special recognition is the CAS Leadership Awards from Bungay School. Ms. Feige, would you please come forward?
Thank you for having us here. Mrs. Reed, come on up, please. So the Connecticut Association of Schools has an elementary leadership conference, and we have 18 students that participated in the program. It was virtual this year, and there were over 1,000 students in the state of Connecticut that participated. They got to see things like interactive learning with some role playing. There was yoga and wellness from an instructor from Hawaii. There was a climate and culture, theater education, and Renata Bowers, she's the author and she's a speaker of the Free to Be books. So, Courtney Barton, come on, or do you want to call her name? There you go.
Well, let's do individual, then we'll do the whole.
Okay.
Matthew Barton. Do you have a sister in with you for one?
Oh, yeah. Do you want to take one together?
Chloe Brannigan. Matthew Buzzling. Mary Cust. Chloe Diaz. Braden Ferreira. Elizabeth Galimi. Vanessa Khan.
Maximilian Kasich.
Lila Mayer. Margaret Nathazi. Gianna Nespoli. Nyla Parada. Aiden Pierre.
See, now, Ada, we talked about this yesterday, you're taller than me.
Carlos Pueblo Polchalik. Annabelle Rich. Ethan Sukai. And Camille Zygaldo.
You guys need to shift that way a little bit so the camera can't. Okay, we're very, very proud. Very proud. Parents should be proud as well.
Very special Kodak moment.
Everyone, it's our pleasure to honor our CLS student ambassadors this evening. The CLS Student Ambassador Program focuses on improving awareness and fostering leadership skills for our selected students. The program's main concentration is on the following areas: communicating effectively in social situations, addressing and welcoming guests to CLS, learning how to begin and end conversations, and learning what makes successful first impressions. Our CLS student ambassadors act as a link between the school and visiting families. For many of these families, our student ambassadors are the first impression that our guests will have of CLS. Therefore, each interested student must complete an application in order to potentially participate in the program. Student ambassadors make every effort to ensure that incoming students and parents feel welcome and at ease during their visit. They are a representation of what is expected at CLS during any duty they are performing. It is imperative that they are always supporting the CLS motto of care, learn, and succeed. Student ambassadors are expected to be respectful, responsible, caring, and safe, proud to be a CLS student, welcoming and friendly, enthusiastic and confident, articulate, well-spoken, and reliable, and community-minded and knowledgeable. Our 8 CLS student ambassadors this year are from both 4th and 5th grade, and they were selected by our CLS Safe School Climate Committee out of over 45 applications. So it was a very difficult process, but the cream really rose to the top, and we're very proud to be able to recognize them this evening. And as part of their training, they also attended the CAST Student Leadership Webinar. So, okay. Jesse Archibald. Juliana Bell. Nathan Franson. Tyler McCarthy. Congratulations, Tyler. Olivia Saunders. Willow Weitzler. Leona LeQuay. Adriana Wasco.
Is that all?
Yep.
Okay, let's get a group picture. Can't be in Bungay picture and not be with Catfish. Christy. Very good. Very proud.
We're done.
All right, before we move on to the student reports, it's 8 o'clock. All of the staff members, students who had recognitions, if you can take 5 minutes break and you guys can go home. You're welcome to stay, by all means.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is We're just going to come back. It is 8:03, and up next we have item 3, the student reports. Mr. Ryan?
Thank you. So for sports, the girls basketball team is in the quarterfinals for the state tournament right now. Our girls dance team has qualified to compete in the New England tournament next Saturday, and that's the first time that they've been able to do that. Really good for us. AJ DeTici, who competes as our wrestling team, he made it to state opens and was named the Class S champion. For the boys basketball season, boys and girls indoor track and field, and boys swimming, all the seasons have come to a close. Those are our winter sports. And our CIAC spring season, which consists of softball, outdoor track and field, baseball, golf, and girls tennis, is going to begin next Saturday, March 19th. So practices. For student council, we made 25 fleece blankets. They're for newborns at Yale New Haven Hospital, and this was part of a state student council project that we partook in. We're going to make 25 gratitude cards for healthcare workers and first responders. Seymour High School students were invited to apply for positions in the CASC, and that's the Connecticut Association of Student Council. Officer positions and applications are due tomorrow, so we'll see who applies from our school. We're going to be planning another food drive for the Seymour Oxford Food Bank, and this is going to take place late March, early April, and it's going to be a competition between the classes at the high school. And Amanda Curtis, the president of Student Council, wants to highlight March as Mental Health Awareness Month. We're going to decorate 2 student council bulletin boards throughout the school and explore other possibilities for raising awareness. We're going to discuss the following topics: what mental health is, why it is important to discuss mental health, ways to get help, and easy ways to take care of yourself. And lastly, Teacher Appreciation Day is coming in May, and Student Council is going to be exploring ideas to appreciate our teachers.
Thank you. Any questions for Tyler?
Very good.
Thank you.
We can let you go too. Yes, ma'am.
Typically, our student reps stay and they have an opportunity to participate throughout. So I totally understand if you've got some studying to do, but I think we got into the habit of saying, hey, you can, leave during COVID and things were so heavy, but typically they stay through the meeting and they offer commentary when asked, so I just want to put that out there.
It's up to you. If you stay, I'm going to make sure she asks you lots of questions.
And now, if you feel guilty that you forget I said it.
All right, at your discretion. Okay, the next item we have up is public comment. Many people cleared out. I know a lot of stuff is going on, conversations about error in one of our posts and on our agenda. It is not 22. Yes, it's 4. So if you're here to talk about that, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But if not, anybody have a public comment to make?
I just did my budget, please. It's been a long day. I just want to say thank you to the board. Dr. Compton and I have been speaking, and I would like to see the schools in Seymour do what the schools in Derby and Shelton and Ansonia do. And I know I hate to compare us to other towns and cities, but I would like to see the honor roll come back and be posted. I think it's very important. It was great that we were able to recognize the students here. It's great that we're able to recognize our seniors, but as you know, I do what's happening in the 888. And I like to acknowledge everybody in that, but I would like to see, the Bungee, the middle school, the Chatfield, the high school honor rolls be posted. I think it's very important that everybody see what's going on in our schools and how well our students are doing. So I would like to see that, if possible, Dr. Compton.
We're also going to be getting pins for them from, it's a Jones Trophy and Pin Company in South Carolina. And they do really nice honor roll pins. So we'll give each of them pins, and I think it'd be nice if we do a certificate from the town and a certificate from the Board of Ed.
Yep, that'd be great. And one more thing is, somebody mentioned to me Mayor for a Day. You know, my daughter went to another school and Ansonia had Mayor for a Day. That was one of the things that us parents would auction off for. We stupidly raised money for something so silly like that. Not something that we would do in Seymour. But maybe have a student pick to do Mayor for a Day or Mayor for a month, however the Board of Ed would like to do it. I think it's important for our middle schoolers and high schoolers to see what it's like to get involved in public service, sitting maybe, you know, we have the high school students sit here at the Board of Ed meeting, but maybe sit at a Board of Finance meeting, how boring that could be, but a Board of Selectmen meeting and just take part, actively take part in government, in small town government.
Or even fire chief, police chief for a day.
Yeah, even something like that, or even the WPCA, that was a very exciting meeting tonight as well. Yeah, or the fire chiefs meeting, or the fire commissioners meeting. But I think it's important to get the young kids involved.
We would just like publicly to thank you for the meeting last Wednesday, with you and Bill Sawicki, and your board finance chair and your board chair as well. Thank you for the time and for that meeting. I thought it went well, and also Kristen commented on it and gave nice compliments as well. Thank you.
I think it went well as well, and you're welcome. The only way we're going to get through this and continue to move our town forward is if we're working together as a team and not against each other. And we have to hear each other, hear what our concerns are, and hear what we have to do to move it forward. But I think it was a great meeting. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Yes?
My name's Jamie Bailey. My address is 15 Oriole Lane. I'm just here, as I've been saying over and over again, I really feel the special ed department needs to be looked at. My situation is currently being fixed, and I will acknowledge that, but it shouldn't have happened in the first place. So very disheartening. There's 5 complaints in the special ed department in this district. 4 out of the 5 are at Chatfield-LaPresti. I feel that's enough for you guys to look into it and do something about it, because those are the kids that need the most help, and I feel like it's a disservice to them. So I would appreciate it if somebody would do something. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
To the Board of Finance, but since we're all here and we have some more members listening at home, I'd like to share again some of my remarks I made. I'm Cara Bordenaro for the purpose of this meeting. I live at 21 Hidden Meadow Road. I shared an email earlier today with our Board of Education members and our superintendent, but having our first select woman here is great too, so she can hear this as well. As a taxpayer, parent, and experienced school psychologist, it's always upsetting to discuss any removal of staff due to budget restrictions. I am aware that it's no longer 22 and it is 4. I'm also aware and appreciative of our Board of Education and Dr. Compton's unanimous support to put forth their initial budget with no additional cuts. However, we are here still tonight to discuss the loss of 3 teachers and a school counselor as a result of the removal of the COVID-related federal grant money, which is disheartening considering how these reductions, especially 2 teachers at the elementary level, are going to impact our children's class restructuring. Teachers are the most impactful on our students' learning, and our students are in dire need right now of their teachers, especially after having been through one of the most difficult 2 years in public education history. It's my belief that at no point should we be discussing class size increases, as that is the opposite of what research suggests. Additionally, we need to be cognizant of the social emotional crisis our students are in across the country. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted all of us in significant ways, but most especially our children's education has been severely disrupted. Personally, I've witnessed my own children and heard of countless similar situations in which students' academic growth and social emotional skills have been negatively impacted due to the lack of consistency and stress and trauma over the past 2 years. As many of my fellow community members have previously mentioned, as well as our board members and Dr. Compton have shared at previous meetings, it is time for us to focus on our students' academic and social emotional well-being as a community. Research shows that smaller class sizes is one of the few educational reforms proven to work to improve outcomes for all students, that's special education students included. Decreasing class sizes not only narrows the achievement gap among students, it also yields a host of cognitive and non-cognitive benefits. In fact, the Institute of Education Sciences, one of the main U.S. Department of Education research organizations, concludes class size decreases is only one of 4 evidence-based reforms that have been proven to increase academic achievement while adhering to the gold standard of research. The STAR experiment in Tennessee, as well as countless other state studies, also demonstrates that students who are assigned to smaller classes, especially in the early grades, do better in every way that can be measured. Their scores are higher on tests, they receive better grades, and exhibit improved attendance. In fact, estimates are that reduced class sizes in early grades shrinks the achievement gap by 38%. In Tennessee, the benefits of class size reduction in the early grades also lasted throughout a student's educational career. These students who attended smaller classes in their elementary grades were significantly ahead of their regular class peers in all subjects in all later grades. Students had lower dropout rates, higher grades, and received better results on their college entrance exams. Additionally, reducing the teacher-student ratio also enhances the development of non-cognitive skills, which are not captured on our tests, such as self-esteem, motivation, and persistence, which are all linked to success in school, but also in life, as they become future community members of this town, hopefully. Alan Kerger, chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, has estimated that every dollar invested in reducing class size yields $2 in benefits. This does not take into account savings from lower rates of grade retention or special education referrals, both of which fall when class sizes are lowered. No one wants to discuss the removal of any staff due to budget restrictions, but we need to be mindful of staff reduction that is the least impactful on our students now more than ever. Our children are the future of this community, and our focus should always be on protecting their academic, social, and emotional needs. With the stress and lack of educational continuity over the past 2 years, I urge all of us as community members, not only at this particular board meeting, but also at future meetings outside of our educational realm in this town, to be mindful of our students so that our budget restrictions are not impacting the children the most. As a taxpayer, it's always discouraging to hear when our town's response to our initial budgetary requests lack the willingness to financially support what we need as a school district to improve our students' success. I plan to continue to voice this to not only our meetings here, but also urge everyone in the community who's listening and who is here tonight to do the same from here on out. It's time not to pull from our students' educational needs at this moment in time. Thank you.
Public comments.
Christopher Bowen, 26 Birchwood Road, speaking as a private citizen. I come here tonight and I don't say lightly what I'm about to say. I am a homeowner in this town, and I have no children in the system. I have no horse in this race from a literal perspective of having children. But I am a resident of this town and grew up in this town. I grew up until high school in this school system. So I call on this board and all stakeholders in this room, out of this room, all parents who have had children damaged by this pandemic, damaged by everything that's happened in the past couple of years, to support our superintendent in passing on the first go our budget and doing the absolute best we can to minimize further damage that has been caused by not only the pandemic, but other issues that have been unforeseen until now. We have to invest in our children if we are to move forward as a community. We have to be an attractive destination for people to come to and to put their children into our public schools. And we have to be an attractive destination for those children when they graduate and become adults to raise their children in this community and raise children of their own who will also go through our school system and enrich our higher community. We have passed lean budgets in this town for a very long time, since I've been cognizant of it, which is well over a decade. Lean budget, lean budget, lean budget, 2%, just enough to cover salary increases for already overburdened teachers. I'm calling on everyone to take the sacrifice that I'm willing to take now in having my taxes go up, to support our superintendent in fixing the problems that came about from prior administrations, prior people who might not have performed adequately in their job. We need to support our superintendent, we need to support the Board of Education, and we need to support our teachers so that they can support our students so that we can move forward as a community and not further damage our students, who, I don't know the numbers, but a lot of people's performance has dropped. Grades have dropped. Everything has dropped since we went remote, and this community turned out for things like the mask mandate. This community can be engaged. We have to have hard conversations with each other, respectful and hard conversations about investing in our schools. I can only hope that we bring the same energy to this issue that we're facing right now during a budget crisis. Let's not discount the very real problems of inflation, of gas prices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I just came from the budget presentation over at Town Hall. We need to have hard and respectful conversations with each other, with the skeptics, to turn out people to vote yes for the budget. We need to support our children, because this is really what this is about. Supporting our children supports the community as a whole. And as a taxpayer, a homeowner, and a longtime resident on and off of this town, that's the number one priority that I have. I thank you.
Any other public comment?
Elizabeth White, 49 Sagamore Drive. I want to begin by thanking this board. Many of you have been on this board advocating for the better part of a decade for the school budget. So I have no doubt that you have the interest of our kids at heart, and I want to thank you for navigating us through these waters. Just a year ago, we were in a much different position, trying to have our schools reopened with different leadership. We have new leadership in, it's refreshing. Yes, we're correcting errors from the previous leadership, but I want to begin by thanking you and recognizing that, because I have no doubt you have the best interest of our kids at heart. I do, however, have to just express, the same, I guess, wishes as everyone else in here. I am a parent of a student, 3 students in district. One was very happy, resilient, and it's really taken its toll on him. He's struggling, and he's waking up in the middle of the night. With concerns about, I can't do the math. And I think it's with that I'm coming to you and I'm pleading with you not to take away some of the guidance counselors, and if there's any way we can keep in the tutors, I know that they are here with ESSER funds, so I completely appreciate where you're coming from. But if we could keep them in place because they're not receiving benefits, or if we could get creative, I thank you for your time, and I know that you have the best intentions of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Public comment going twice. Third call, public comment. Okay, the first section of tonight's public comment is closed. There will be another one towards the end of the meeting. Up next, item 5, report, and this is the Envisions math update. I know we were talking about wanting to see some of the programs from a board perspective, so Ms. Reed, take it away.
Yeah, we're just so pleased to have her do the presentation tonight. You just saw it with the many discussions about how important and understanding and having an emphasis on curriculum, and especially specifically with the new math program, that this would be a great opportunity. So I just wanted to follow up and let you know I listened.
Hi, Lauren Reed, Assistant Principal of Bungie School. I have with me Steph Newman, who is a kindergarten teacher who is going to be presenting and giving some of the teacher perspective as well on the new math program. update since we last met and told you about the pilot and our selection in choosing Envision Math. I just like it. Okay.
So just to refresh and to begin, and kind of talk about the rollout and what the implementation looked like. We have been working on the pilot of the Envision program for almost 2 years. We have over a year here, and with the pandemic, it got pushed back a little bit. So we had one teacher piloting from each grade, and so there was a representative from K to 5 between the two schools. And it was nice because we got a chance, and I was the K representative, and it was nice because we had a chance to work in school and pilot some lessons that we thought would be great for our students. Then with the pandemic, I guess one positive is when we were home, we were able to actually introduce some of the lessons and the digital resources and the distance learning resources too. So the kids kind of got a feel of both, which was nice, and so did the teachers. So with having a 2-year pilot in place, once we started the program, which was implemented this year, the 2021-22 school year, it was kind of a good rollout. We had a lot of experience. We had sat with our grade level colleagues, and teachers have been given a lot of professional development. So far, we were able to work in summer, right, August before school started, and in November at the election day PD with the program facilitator. So we got to meet together, go over the program, what it entailed, what it looked like, and get a chance to really dive in. Since then, teachers are given the opportunity to work with their grade level partners collaboratively. So during grade level time, our administration has given us time. We've had time during faculty meetings, and it's nice because it's given us a chance to sit with our grade levels, look at the scope and sequence, review, plan lessons, and take a look at all the great resources that there are.
So what does a lesson look like? When we were really looking at programs, we wanted a program that would enhance our math instruction, look at the pedagogy behind math and math instruction, how lessons were delivered. So an Envision's math lesson starts out with problem-based learning. So the students are examining an open, rich problem, and they're discussing and sharing solutions. So the nice thing about the problem-based learning is really it's they call a high ceiling, low floor activity, where all students can engage in it, no matter the level. So some students might be drawing pictorial representations, some students might know an algorithm. Everyone's able to engage in that activity, and they might have different strategies. And what the teacher is doing is really looking for all of those different strategies and sharing out the student works. The students are collaboratively problem solving. They are looking for misconceptions that they can teach into, and that's all in that problem. It's typically called the solve and share, and that's what you'll see in the book, and you can see it in your pamphlet as well. After that, they go on to the visual learning bridge. And really that connects their student thinking from the initial problem solving to share out and start the lesson. And it really is important because of the visual piece of it. We know that students construct their thinking from that visual to the pictorial to more of the abstract. So it really helps them, as it says, build a bridge between their learning. The nice thing is there are videos go with the visual learning bridge, so it is really engaging. The students really like the video, there's little animations, but the teacher can also choose, depending on the lesson, if they want to present it in a certain way. So it gives you that flexibility. I can show you one. It's actually lower. There it is. I'm going to forward fast forward a little bit.
You can check for mistakes or ask a question. You can draw an underline and add up to check for mistakes. How can you check for mistakes in Kelly's thinking?
So as we see, it begins showing you with an underline, it shows the visual representation, which is really what we're trying to push students to. Create models, right? You can see in the problem it's saying, what do you think about Kelly's thinking? What could you do? So there's a lot of convincing other students, and that's that argument piece in the math practices as well. After the visual learning bridge, the students go on to an assess and differentiate. So during that section, students are engaging in different activities. So there's guided practice where the teacher is checking for understanding and differentiating the instruction. So they might be pulling small groups of students to engage in different activities. There are some center-based activities where the students are collaboratively problem solving, and a bunch of other things. The nice thing about this resource is it has so many different activities and resources at varying levels. So there's intervention materials to pull a small group and teach. There's also enrichment opportunities. There's STEM projects. So there's such a great wealth of knowledge and resources, which is still something that our teachers are working to explore and figure out what works best for the students in Seymour. Yeah, if you don't mind, you can find it. One more.
Okay, so how does the program engage and support student learning? Like Lauren had just said, the visual learning clips are a big one, especially with the younger kids. They're really engaging. They know the robot. They know when math's starting. We're going to put it on. We're going to get started. It's time for math. And it does reel them in, and it kind of sets the stage for the lesson. So the visual learning clips are great. And also lessons can be put, right, they can be imported from your Google Classroom, from the Savas platform, which is the math platform that we work off of, and you can import all the lessons right into Google Classroom. So you have your roster set up, the kids are already there, you just plug all your lessons, you can assign any kind of assignment, you can assign quizzes and tests, and it's nice because the kids just go onto the Google Classroom page and they're one click and they're doing the assignment, so it's not like they have to log into multiple places. There's also the interactive practice buddy, which is great because there's one for every lesson. So when the kids are done with their work, if they need a little extra help, or even better, when they're doing their homework, you can go on at home and it gives you a little more practice and reinforcement. And as Lauren said, the reteaching and enrichment is great because not only for the classroom teacher, but we have the SRBI teachers integrating it too as well. So when they come into our class, they may be taking a small group and using some of those resources to help kids understand key concepts and skills, as well as the teachers are doing that too for enrichment. So we have kids that might be above and they're having all those extra activities too. And again, in online games, there's an actual online game center where you can go in and go by grade or by standard, and the kids can, you can assign them, or they can go in and just explore, and it gives them a fun way to engage and motivate them to learn.
And the nice thing is, as we moved away from COVID, we've tried to really engage students in those collaborative conversations and not necessarily all of the online. But the online resources are really valuable for parents at home. If, a lot of times we hear from parents, my child won't let me help because they're telling me I'm doing it all wrong. So the nice thing about the platform, as Ms. Newman said, there's the practice buddy that can help guide them through. There are some videos that will show you, so it shows them exactly the strategies and methods they're using in class, and it's a good conversation. We talked about allowing your child to teach you the way that they're learning and to show you the video and then to engage in the homework, which is really a great conversation to have with the kids. And as Ms. Newman said too, the SRBI resources are there. We're still continuing to explore that, but that allows a classroom teacher to have resources right at their fingertips to pull a small group and intervene and set goals with that student and track their progress. So it's all within that same program. Thank you. So how are we supporting, we talked about our students, how are we supporting our families? So there was a envision letter that did go home at the beginning of the year introducing the program. In that letter there were information, links, resources. I also created a parent tutorial video, so that went home as well. The parents could, I can show you and I can share this with Dr. Compton, and she can share it with you so you have all the links. I'm going to fast forward a little bit if I can.
Welcome to
2 minutes. So you can see some of the research.
Students access vocabulary support, practice skills through games, and view videos to support learning at home. Today, I'm going to give you a quick tour of those features and show you how to navigate the site. As you can see, when you first come into the site, any assignments will be listed right here on the left. In the next column, you'll see assignments, discuss, grades, which you can use to look at students' grades, and students can keep track of their own progress. And the program. The program that the child is assigned to would be matching their grade level, which is accessible right here, as well in this column to the right. So we're going to go ahead and click on that program, which this one is grade 5. Once you're in the program, you'll see a variety of resources that you and your child have access to. Math practice animations, academic vocabulary, which is like a glossary for all math terms, and then each topic that the students will be studying throughout the year. So I'm going to go into a sample topic, topic 1, understand place value, and show you what is in each of those topics. Each topic has all of the lessons listed, so if you go in one layer deeper, I'm going to go into lesson 1.5, compare decimals. You can see all of the resources for that lesson. Included in the resources are the interactive student edition. This matches the student's math book, which can help you. So it brings the parents through all the different resources that their child and they can access online, which includes the whole lesson, the student book, and next, another look video. So every lesson has another look video. It's typically under 2 minutes, and it gives a little review of the lesson, which is really helpful. We, did a quick survey of some students, and our older students really said they loved that. That was something that they'd go home, they'd watch before quizzes, they'd watch it, and that seemed to be really something that they thought was very beneficial. And parents do share that with them as well, so that's something that they can go in if they want to support their students. We also have the home school connection topic letters that go home, and they go home to families for each new topic at each grade level. And it, again, gives the family an outline, so keeping them up to date on what the students are working on in class. And it also typically has something to look for. So have your child explain the relationship, so a question, something to engage your child at home in those conversations. And some of the letters, it's also available in other languages too, which is nice. Some of the letters also have little games or activities you can do, or simple things like if they're working on place value when you're in the store, what could you do to kind of engage in those conversations. So there's a lot of great resources that we're working to share with families. Again, they have access to all the digital student books, and there's a status downs page. It's a free app where a parent or a student, I guess, could actually take a picture of one of the math pages in their book, and it brings them to those tutorials and videos. So there's a lot of great resources. We are working to get this information out to parents. We shared the letter. We are working, Mrs. Everson and I are working on doing it parent night, so that's in the works as well. So hopefully we can get all this information out and just kind of working with our teachers to remind them there's so much there. So encouraging them to share those resources and also helping during professional development as well.
So as Lauren said, we were able to get feedback from some teachers and, just from all grade levels, K to 5, both schools, to see what they were saying about the program. And a lot of the responses were very similar. Teachers really do like online resources. I can speak for myself. It's very easy to access. There is so much, so we are still looking into a lot of it, but there is so much info on each topic. So it's great. There's plenty of resources.
There's even little videos with the teachers on each topic too. So as a teacher, professional development is available. It might say, what should I be looking for? What should I be listening for? So teachers who might not feel as comfortable, new teachers can listen and really understand what is most important in these topics. Sorry.
Okay. And students really seem to enjoy the fluency practice, but not only that, what Lauren was saying, the scope and sequence. They like the flow. They know, okay, we're going to do a solve and share, we're going to do visual learning, we're going to do guided practice, we're going to do movement practice. They know the routine, and they seem to really enjoy that. The homework is great because you can actually assign homework through paper, old school, or you can actually assign it online. And the nice part about the online homework is that you can edit it. So you go in, teachers are able to go in, shorten it, differentiate it, and it also just gives kids the choice, if you want to do it on paper, sure. Do you prefer to do it online? So it's nice, and it's easy for them to access. Even little ones, they like to do that. As far as the kids working and talking and in their math groups and their math partners, they love having different strategies to use, choosing their own strategy and really using that to have a math talk and build rich conversations in that.
Is it the volume all the way up? I'm hoping you can hear these. If not, I'll summarize. So we also want to get feedback from the students. And while there are, with any new program, some difficulties, especially for our older students, I think 3rd, 4th, and 5th typically get hardest hit with a new program. There's new vocabulary, there's new strategies, even the structure. I want to hear from 5th graders, because that would be kind of the most difficult year for implementation. So here are some of the things that our 5th graders are saying. I really hope you can hear. So he talked about getting fired up, that's the solve and share is what he's referencing, and then a lot of different things that can help. So
you hear a theme throughout about the collaboration and working with others and helping others too. Can you hear it at all? Not really that far. Okay. I will play them. I'll summarize them. If you can't really hear them, I don't want to. So the next girl talked about the ideas for the math problems, that they were more interesting. She kind of talks about them being real. This young lady right here, Tina, she talks about a deep understanding, which I was like, wow. Down at the bottom, he talks about being simple, easy, and fun to learn. This next boy, he talks about the little clips for the math problem. That was really helpful for him. He likes to watch little clips. He actually talks about doing that when he's home, which is nice. Ethan, he's talking about how they help each other. They work together. He's really proud of the work that he does and that he can help other students. And then this young boy, he talks about liking the solid share. And that really is the opportunity where the students come up with the strategies. They get to present them. And they really are proud of all of these. And again, every student can engage in that. Because it doesn't matter if they already know an algorithm, it's how they represent their thinking and their sharing. Thank you. I'm just going to put that page on. No, keep going, keep going. We might go too far. Yeah, sorry. Go. That was like a plural. So what are we excited to see in our classrooms? The lessons being interactive, engaging, the math talk. I know talking to CLS as well, there's really an increase in our math talk, especially during that solve and share. The students are grappling with complex problems, and again, they're working through it, they're persevering, that's important, they're learning that grit. Students are using multiple strategies, realizing that there's not one correct strategy, that there's different ways to find that solution. Students are eager to share their thinking. Everyone wants to share. It's almost like they figure out who's going to share at what time. All the students have the opportunity, again, to engage in that problem-based learning. There's a variety of resources for all different levels. Everyone from enrichment, to STEM, to intervention materials. One of the things that we looked for in a new program, again, was that it really was aligned to the Common Core and the key shifts in mathematics. And what we're finding is the focus is on the major work with learning to actually report what are the key standards. And then the emphasis on the mathematical practices and the key shifts. So some of the mathematical practices that really we're emphasizing are that making sense of problems and the reasoning, critiquing the reasoning of others, and modeling what math is on. So we're seeing those.
So with any new program or with any content area, you always want your next steps and what are we going to do next to make this even better. And what teachers are looking for and hopeful for some additional support and more training from the program facilitators themselves. We're hoping that we can get the facilitators into grade level so that they can sit one-on-one with grade level teams and really look and dive deep into what grade levels can access online, what's going to be most beneficial to them. So far, teachers have been collaboratively working, like I said earlier, between our grade level lesson planning, and it would be nice to have some extra support from the facilitators. Also, not only through our grade level, we are looking forward to having some vertical articulation, meaning, kindergarten, we'll talk to first grade we'll talk to second, and everybody will kind of talk to the grades before and after to make sure the kids are aligned and they're getting the prerequisite skills they need for the next grade level. Especially with some of the older ones, like we said, with new vocab and skills, we want to make sure that they're on the right path. Also, just looking through the resources again, to see what fits, and most important, looking through the scope and sequence. And that's really important because I know, for example, my kindergarten team recently sat, we looked through the math scope and sequence to see, okay, what are our priority standards? What do we need to teach the kids? What are our additional supporting standards? What can we add? And after putting them in order by prioritizing them, making sure we're hitting the standards first that are priorities, and then adding in the additional supporting standards as well.
And the other thing district-wide that pre-COVID, pre-our adoption program, the teachers have done a lot of work with math workshops, so really having students engage in those collaborative conversations, collaborative problem solving, hands-on materials, which is so important for them in building their understanding of mathematics. We are currently trying to figure out how does that work with the program, what resources can support us in that shift, and the teachers are doing a great job of trying to find those things, but it's tough balancing, a brand new program and some of those changes that we had started prior. So they're right now working, and that's something that we hope to continue to look at. How does this, work with the work? How does it, kind of match up with what we've done prior? I think that's it for us. In your packet, you have the presentation. I will share it with Dr. Compton, so you can view those videos when you can different steps within the lesson development, and then the second sheet shows you kind of what students are doing throughout the lesson and what teachers are doing throughout the lesson. So this gives you a nice picture. Any questions?
Great job, both of you. And to the teachers in both elementary schools and implementing this new math program. And I want to commend too that you did select this program. I want to just say that the piloting, it was very important. Mrs. Tenza and the different teachers who piloted this and the principal support. It's a great math program. Like I told you before, we did it in New Jersey as well, but I just want to commend you for doing this. Great presentation. Thank you.
We have questions.
We have some questions.
Oh, okay, sure. Is the program just for K through 5, or do they offer additional grades?
When we looked at the program,
Oh,
sorry, this is Sherry, I was program. So when we looked at the program, middle school had actually already adopted a program. So when we looked at the program, we looked at it for a K-5 program. We used the Next Ed reports to look at that alignment, to make sure that it was going to be aligned, rigorous. We looked at the teacher adaptability pieces, and this program passed all of those, they call them gates, at the K-5 level. So that's where that program kind of sat. That
sweet spot.
Yeah.
We also talked to other districts too. We talked to other teachers, so it was nice for teachers to have feedback with other teachers that have used the program.
You talked a lot, can I?
Go ahead.
Sorry. You talked a lot about like vocabulary and alignment and kind of moving. How do you envision this from 5th to 6th grade, given that the 6th grades are using a different program?
So we actually, when we were looking at programs, we actually did meet with some teachers prior at the middle school and asked them, what does your program have? What are the key components? What's working well for you? And they talked about that collaboration, the discussion, the discourse, the inquiry base. That's really what their program is heavily based in. So we wanted to find a program, while it's not the same, that matched with the expectations. And our vocabulary is all the standards, it's all the Common Core. So all of that, matches up. It's really making sure that they have the priority standards from each grade level, because that's the coherence that's in the new standards, that that vertical articulation that carries across.
And I'm just making sure you guys are paying attention. You talked about talking to other districts and collaboration, and you also mentioned the need for kind of that in-classroom facilitator support. Have you, my first question is, do you have any, have you learned anything from any other districts on how to do that? And B, is that included in the service that we pay for, or is that extra? How does it work from a budgetary perspective?
So we did have an agreement set up. So they did come out they were virtual. But we did have 2 with the teachers and then 1 with the administration, which was really helpful. It helped the administrators even to say, what am I looking for? What am I doing when I'm going into classrooms? What should I see? The teachers are now saying, we did that more at a K-2 level, a 3-5 level, more globally, and they're looking for some more support within the grade level band. So we're hoping that, CLS is, maybe just K or K-1, and Bunge's K-1 can really focus in on their grade level. At Bunge School, Kim Barton, who's our now SRBI teacher, she actually is doing work with the grade levels as well as the principal and the assistant principals to really focus in during those grade level times. So as Ms. Newman said, we're looking at, okay, let's look at the scope and sequence. Let's look at the priority standards. But we want to get them more opportunities to really go observe each other. That's something we're encouraging at Bunge right now. So Ms. Newman actually did that recently with another teacher. They went into different grade levels. They looked at what does it look like in this classroom. So that's something we do regularly encourage our teachers. I know Mrs. Feige and I, when we have mid-year meetings, we remind them, hey, we'll come in and cover your class. Get into another classroom. It's so valuable. You see, all different things, but really to get an opportunity.
So is the facilitation third-party support, or does that come among you guys?
So we both. Okay. So there are 2 facilitators that we work with who have really been well received by our teachers, but we also are doing it in-house as well.
One of the reason I ask so many questions is for a new program to start, you need to kind of nurture it and feed it. So I want to make sure that if you guys are this excited about it, there's nothing that we need from us in terms of budgetary commitment or things like that to make sure it's like successful for the long haul.
And one thing I know Ms. Newman was hearing and I've heard too is, we have in-house, but we also, this program is new to us too. So I do think that having facilitators come out with their expertise in the program I know we also had an excellent presenter with math workshop. That's not necessarily this program, but it helps to support those math skills.
Concepts.
And I know teachers have been, eager to continue that work as well.
Okay, yeah, that's what we're really looking at. A lot of teachers have said that. And we're so used to the math workshop model too, that we want to do whatever we can to take all of this information and implement it, just hands-on math partners, math groups, things like that.
This is the most, when you look across the nation, this math program is being used in more elementary school districts than any other math program.
And so my fear is always that we have, whether it's a reading program, a math program, that we buy it, we get on board with it, and then it just sits stagnant. Kind of to your point, everybody's excited up front, and you had mentioned additional support and whatnot. So if there's anything that comes up that you need, I'm sure Dr. Compton will be very supportive, and we will too. Is there anything that's not working well? Because we, as a board, we always hear things are great, things are great. Is there anything not working well with this program?
I think the struggles right now in the upper grades is they haven't had this program, so really trying to reinforce some of the vocabulary, some of the strategies, the structures, and some of the deficit skills. There are some deficit skills that we have to build on. The nice thing is that we do have different materials that are differentiated, so you can go back. The other thing that the program and presenter did show us is it was more of a COVID resource, but it was helpful to us too. Like, this is some of the stuff the other grade might have missed, and we had those conversations, so this is where maybe you have to implement this lesson, even though it's third grade and you're in fourth grade. I do know the teachers, they really were excited about the hands-on, the math workshop, and because they're getting used to the new program and there's resources and they want to do it with fidelity, they're trying to balance that. So that right now is difficult, and the teachers will say that too. It's difficult for them to really balance the components of math workshop that they think are really beneficial to students, getting that hands-on materials with some of the program structure. It's not that the program can't coexist, it's just that they're learning the program and they're also trying to balance that. So that is something that, I think is actively, being discussed at their schools, and how can we kind of support teachers with that work, because it's important work.
And I know you're a big proponent of math and STEM.
Absolutely.
I'm sure PDs and stuff like that, if needed, will
Yeah,
keep.
and Ms. Tins and them have done some really good PD trainings, and it's just something ongoing, and the rigor, the vertical alignment is there, like she said, even though it's a different math series for middle school, it is there. But,
And that key group, if I may, the key group that made the decisions will be coming back. We mentioned it way back in August. They'll be coming back to the table in May for probably a half a day to talk about our next steps for this summer and next year. They have to have that
good
input.
planning.
So with the, you had mentioned that encouraging teachers to go into different grade classrooms and stuff, is that within the elementary school, or are we trying to do that between the 4th and 5th grade teachers and the 6th and 7th grade teachers, like middle to?
Like for a 5th grade teacher to go to middle school, that type of thing?
Yeah.
So not recently, that hasn't been, but prior to COVID, yes, we had a great conversation with the middle school, and they had actually come down at one point and seen some of our 5th grade teachers, and we were able to, through kind of shared data team time, have them have a conversation together, because that is really important in the math kind of instructional practices that we want to see continue. But that's something that would have to.
And we have our March vertical professional learning early release. Part of that time, the 5th and 6th grade teachers will be overlapping to talk about math. And so we expect that to come back, but we really did not do visits to classrooms during COVID.
But maybe we can, though.
Oh, we're ready now.
Sure.
Yeah, we can start
ready
that
now.
back again.
Because if I could through the chair, there, to Beth's question, Envisions does offer a K through 8 program. So, just kind of begs the question. I don't know when the middle school program was adopted, but it just bears keeping in mind if something's working in a year or 2 years, to just keep it all the way through.
Or maybe move it with the 5th graders.
Yeah, right. That's a great point, because you can make an argument that all curriculum should be rolled in like that.
I think it gets hairy with the 7th and 8th graders, though, with the algebra.
Yeah, some would
Those
just
are
move
the
on to the
state,
algebra.
they use the state.
Right.
Yeah, they do.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great job.
I'm concerned about the fifth, sixth, and you mentioned the facilitators from the company and stuff here. I think then it behooves us, it behooves administration to see if they would offer some sort of collaboration between our program and the sixth grade, even though it's a different math program. And, and I'm thinking sometimes one day of vertical articulation is not worth enough. It has to be a little bit more. But I do understand, though, that all of our PD days are all zapped with everything. And if we could have 30 PD days during a school year, but then that impacts, obviously, parents and everything. And there was at one time that lost in a tie vote that they were adding 20 PD days. Teachers don't like to hear this. 20 PD days to the beginning of the school year before school started at the state level. I'm sure the union representative might be a little bit upset with Ed Mel saying that, but I'm retired now, so I can say that. That's my last question.
And I guess my next question is for you. So we've always talked about wanting to see more the programs and stuff.
Right.
Do we know what's next?
Literacy.
Literacy.
Yes, Chad Phillipresti next month will be presenting about literacy. Yes.
Just to follow up on that, though, so Mr. School, the point about the PD, last year when the state gave some of the waivers, so to speak, and people had the opportunity to have those Wednesday half days, although, it was for COVID cleaning, there was a benefit to
Yes,
having
there was.
that time for
Those places.
development.
Good point.
And, I don't know where they were, there was some talk with the legislature about, giving some of that back or moving towards it, but, we as a district can make some of that decision ourselves, give or take some of the hours, I don't know exactly, but it's a conversation when we set the calendar that we still could have, I don't know exactly what the hour minimum mandate is, but some school districts do,
They build it in the calendar.
they build it into the calendar and they, gives them that time. So if we are here talking about, that articulation at that time, that is an authority that we may have. I don't know how many hours we'd be able to allot for that. Maybe we already meet our minimum or maximum, I'm not sure. But it's something that we definitely should take a look at.
Yeah.
Because that time for, instructors to get together is very valuable.
You want a liaison committee?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
It's something that doesn't even necessarily impact.
Right.
No, but the
days.
liaison committee
Days
deals
would.
with the teachers' contracts and deals with the work year of
Yes.
the teachers. And I know that's a tough area because of negotiations and stuff there. But that's sometimes where, when you deal with a contract, it can't always be money and finances. Sometimes it could be work year and stuff like that that you can adjust.
Professional development part.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay, anything else on the math program? Moving on, 5B, committee meeting updates. We have the finance committee. Anything you want to say?
No, just keep questions and comments coming. We've had a great meeting earlier tonight. I told Mr. Bucci that every month his reports become clearer, more transparent. Not that they were ever not transparent, but he's just doing very creative things about putting things in logical places and breaking out line items so we can see additional detail, and it's greatly appreciated. And then the second update is just to say that, the collaboration from the town side on helping us address both this year's budget as well as next year's budget has been terrific, and we're on our way towards making some good progress and putting some alarmist headlines behind us.
Any questions for finance? All right, item C, there's also another, this is from February. I don't think much
Yeah, don't
talk
say,
about from
yeah.
that. C2 is the RFP committee. We did meet last month, and we'll be scheduling those interviews. I'll work with Ed and Beth to get those on the calendar. And hopefully, we'll have a decision by April.
April meeting.
The April meetings.
And maybe you just want to let people know what that means.
Oh, request for a proposal. Yeah, so with that, it's the
Board attorney.
board attorney, the long-term board attorney. Right now, we have an interim. Any other questions? All right, special ed. Anything to point out in the?
Not much to say. I feel like the data points this month look very stable compared to last month. We do have a lot of referrals that are pending and evaluations that are being completed. So I would anticipate next month, if not the month after, to see another bump in the total population of, students with IEPs. But for this month, we're pretty much holding steady, so.
I'm not sure if I missed it last month, but I noticed we had one increase in the outplacement. It went from 22 to 23. Did that happen January to February to March?
In February, it ended up evening out because
One
we
month.
had one student that aged out the middle of the month and one student that moved into district within like 4 school days of one another. So it's a net zero, but there was a student that moved in. The thing about it was, from a budgetary standpoint, we knew the student that was aging out, so we set the budget for that.
Right.
But the student that moved in, even though the number didn't necessarily move, the expenses did come in, so we're accounting for that, so.
Did come in what?
What's that?
Did it come in higher?
Higher or less?
Well, they're coming in with a bill, so it's only gonna go up, so, it's a student that we didn't plan for, that moved in February, that, was already outplaced, that we have to account for.
That's what I was getting at.
Yes.
So there is
There's
going to be an
a-
associated cost with that.
Yeah, that's, as I reported, yeah.
Yes.
Chris, is there any way we could see some trends of special ed over we see it on a monthly basis and, every month, but is there any way we can see it over a trend, like a 5-year trend, so we understand, or perhaps next month we can talk a little bit more about what we're seeing in terms of whether there is an increased need and how we address it?
Sure. The easiest way for me to do that is October 1st is the state collection called CDAC. It's easy for me to pull total figures.
Perfect.
I don't think it disaggregates it quite so clearly with out-of-district placements, but I think I could probably work backwards and figure that out. But it'd be very easy for me to get
That'd be great.
total population numbers.
I think to complement that with the available resources we have, I know it's probably not a one-for-one, but to be able to see how that trend is, I think it's a big part of our budget. And I'd appreciate some more kind of special discussion around it.
Sure. Yeah, and about 5 years ago is where we started, and well, 4 years ago, we implemented the Reach Classroom at Bungie, which is starting to show returns on having more kids in district. We've expanded ABA since then,
Yeah.
at the elementary and then the middle, and now at the high school, so.
Thank you.
And that would show things that would show increases in the year as far as outplacement, stuff like that, because as we all know, the special ed, it's a moving target, and maybe having some more insight into that would help us budgetary type of thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, the CDAC is just one point in the academic year.
Right, and then
But it
take
would allow
more
you to
data.
take 2015,
That
16,
data and
17,
look
18,
at it.
19, like if that's what you want, then, and I believe EdSite has a collection for staff members on October 1st as well. So I could correlate that with special ed teachers, I could correlate that with paraprofessionals. So,
Yeah, I love the idea of looking at enrollment trends with resources, but I fear it's going to be more complicated for resource perspective, because it's coming from multiple different revenue streams, right? It's not just gonna be in our operating budget, it's gonna be whether we've gotten increases or decreases in state grants, federal grants, et cetera. So it will be complicated, I think. And then the other thing is when we look at just sheer enrollment trends, if there's any way you can give us context with other school districts, because what I don't want is to send a signal that, oh, special ed in Seymour is going up when really it's a statewide or a DRG-wide or a nationwide kind of issue, and I feel pretty comfortable saying it's yes, all of the above.
It is.
That I think I presented last year. We generally trend approximately 1 percentage point below what the state is. 1 year we were, like 0.1,
Yeah.
Instead, of the total population of the district. But generally speaking, we are following the trend, but we're slightly below the trend. This year, I don't know how we compare because our numbers are exploding, but so are the other districts. So when you talk about resources in terms of funding streams, I was thinking when I heard resources, staff members. I'm thinking like,
Sure.
but if you're looking for more, it is complicated to
Yeah,
get.
no, you're absolutely right.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to make sure I gave you what you
No,
wanted.
I was thinking revenue number size, but I think you're absolutely right. Just FTEs, really.
Okay,
Because they can be counted from any, regardless of where their funding comes from, right?
correct.
Yeah, so, yeah.
So, I mean, I'll bring, what I think that,
It'd be
is
relevant.
appropriate and what you're asking for. And if you want more, then I'll keep plugging away, so.
It's a national trend on the increases of special ed, and especially since COVID, the last 2 years, when you look on a national level, it's been an increase.
I guess in general terms, what are you seeing as the impact of the pandemic? Is it showing up in certain places? I know like we have some immediate impact, but there's also longer term. What are you seeing at this moment in time?
I think we have just a general increase in students being referred. We also have a high percentage, higher, just anecdotally, I would say, students moving into district already with IEPs coming from, Fairfield County, moving up into this direction that happen to have an IEP with them as well. Our preschool's growing a little bit. It's not a huge mover, but it's moving the number a little bit. But I think that across the board, we had a big wave go into the high school this year from the middle school. They're not new to district, they're just new to the building. So you saw an associated decrease at the middle school. But generally, the trend in all of the buildings is we're every month identifying a couple of new students more than we're exiting or having students move out.
For example, Bungay has 17 special ed students that are moving to the middle school. Mr. Freud, for example, has a big increase of 8th grade students going to the high school. You want to state that number? I think it's... Right, and then he also had an influx of 81 new students this year, right? 51, okay. Yeah, 51. I was thinking also with Chatfield and Preston was an increase of students as well.
Anything else for Dr. Boyle?
I just thank you. I think it provides some context for the board when we talk about other issues, so I appreciate that support.
Okay, moving on, item 6, consent agenda, approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Motion by Ed, second by Jay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstains, passes 8-0. Skipping over 7, items removed. Section 8, discussion of possible action. Do these, I believe, every year. Healthy food options, item A.
Nobody wants to read that.
Yes.
I move that the Seymour Board of Education will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards and beverages not listed in section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. And 3, the food and beverage items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, interscholastic debates are not events, but soccer practices are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The regular school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held and must be the same place as the food and beverage sales.
Second. Motion.
Care to repeat it?
No, because it's still under A. So we have a motion by Stefan, second by Jay. Any discussion?
So are we supposed to choose one of the two motions available to us? They both have to be done.
Oh, sorry, I missed the other one. Well,
It's a lot of text. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed, abstention? Motion passes 8-0. There is another healthy food options that deals with section 10-21F.
Make a motion pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Section 10-21F, the Seymour Board of Education certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in the schools under its jurisdiction not exempted from the Connecticut nutritional standards by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards during the period July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities in school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organization groups.
I'll second the
Motion
motion.
by Jay, second by Ed. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 8-0. Next item we have up is the capstone coordinator.
I make a motion to approve the job description for capstone coordinator as presented.
Motion by Jay. Do I have a second? Second, Mrs. Bruno. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question concerning the last expectation that's listed. That once the capstone experience course is established by the capstone coordinator position will be dissolved. Now, I thought that when we talked about this, that we wanted to have somebody, because if I remember right, the capstone coordinator will be teaching it. But now we're creating a position, then once we establish the course, it sounds like to me, then we're eliminating the position.
Well, we
To
just
me, that sounds backwards, unless I'm missing something.
let him just,
Originally, plan involved having a capstone coordinator and support staff and presented to the previous superintendent. He had the idea that it should be the responsibility of the school counselors. Frankly, the school counselors absolutely do not have enough time to do this, especially now post-COVID. The social emotional distress of the students, maintaining our school counselors full-time as well as our social workers. It's impossible for them to do it well. So right now, I'm seeking to repurpose PEP funds, which were budgeted for and not used, to be used to hire a capstone coordinator now to support the school counselors to get through this year and all of next year, while at the same time developing a course where the capstone can be taught as a semester-long course for juniors.
right.
As soon as the course is developed and implemented, then the capstone position, the coordinator position is no longer required. I'd like to repurpose that funding back to PEP which we had planned to have in place at that time.
We'd like to come back.
Yeah, but I'm still confused, Jim, if you're telling us that the counselors don't have the time to do it, which I understand. But then we're establishing it, and then for 2 years, and then we don't need it after 2 years?
Because the capstone coordinator or coordinators, because I have more than one person interested to help the school counselors, would then be the teachers of the course. So once it becomes a formalized course with curriculum, you no longer need a coordinator.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
picking up on what funding stream you were talking about.
There's,
Appendix.
there's an Appendix E position which is budgeted for annually for a PEP band.
Oh, a
We-
PEP band, that's what I was not hearing. Okay, thank you.
So
Yeah, just using that.
So it's not an ask for additional money?
No,
It's an ask
no,
for-
it's right out of the Appendix
Yeah,
C monies right now.
Gosh, that got all over the chart. Do we, is that because we just don't have enough students interested in the PEP band? That's just something that comes up.
right now, that's the purpose. Our hope is, and we're in communication with our music teachers, we estimate by 2 years from now,
Yeah, we will have.
enough people who would like to build towards that. So in the meantime, rather than returning that money, rather than not using that money, I really need the capstone coordinator right now to make this happen. And I think it's been on the table for too long. We have to start it, and this is the best way that I believe we could get it going.
Transitional.
I think a lot of work went into establishing the capstone.
That it did.
We paused it during COVID, so we have a group of seniors, and I don't know if the current juniors did not have the opportunity to participate in this. So I would support whatever's needed to get it going this year.
Thank you.
What's the expectation to establish the course in terms of time?
And as far as, we know that our timeline for a course, to bring a course proposal to the Board of Education for the following year, we typically would do that in November. So we would spend the duration of this year doing an abbreviated capstone for our current juniors, as well as the first several months of next school year to develop a course that we presented to the Board of Education, course proposal, capstone. I anticipate that that course proposal will have one half credit devoted towards class work, another half credit devoted towards the actual project demonstration. That will also include components of our developmental school counseling program, which will be integrated into the capstone course.
So we would expect to see the course proposal.
Next November.
Next November.
Anything else on capstone or Mr. Foyne? All right, hearing none, I have a motion on the floor to approve that job description. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes 8-0. Next up, we have a couple donations.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the donation from the Seymour Police Commissioners in the amount of $5,000 and direct that the superintendent determine the placement of this donation.
We have a motion
Second.
by Ms. Harmeling, who was second by Mr. Bruniak. I don't see anybody here from the police department. Maybe our first select woman could talk to this donation or no?
It's Mr. Lucky's. Yeah.
So the donation was brought up to the police commissioners by our community officer. Do you want me to go all the way from the beginning? No need to?
No, I guess Mr. Lucky talked about it before.
So is there any questions? I guess we'll start there.
I have a question. How many students, how many blocks of tuition would this pay for, and how do we spread it out over time, if at all? Because I don't think it's a recurring annual donation, although it would be awesome if it was.
Basically, I don't have the exact number. I would be basically for the kids that are in financial need. We can bring that to you back at another time. We just don't have the exact.
That's okay. Yeah,
That's the
okay.
purpose, so to help kids that need financial
Yes,
assistance.
thank you.
There's a letter attached we could reference.
Thank you. Toggling between the two.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot to look at.
Yeah, I think through the chair, I think it says in the letter 16 plus.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
Yep. Thank you, Stefan.
All right, hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions, passes 8-0. another donation.
Make a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the donation from the first select woman, Anne Marie DeRonis, on behalf of her father in the amount of $600, and direct the superintendent to determine the placement of this donation.
Motion by Jay, second by Mrs. Bruno. Any discussion?
Just to publicly thank both the police commissioners and First Select Woman, because this is it's one of the things that really makes Seymour special in my mind, is our attention to career and technology education. It's really a beautiful thing when our community gets involved like they're doing with the manufacturing program and like this, so thank you.
All right, any other discussion or questions?
The first selectman want to speak about the
I
spirit
don't know,
of
I'm kind of afraid to ask her this time.
You can start at the beginning of this one.
Yeah, you can start at the beginning of this one.
My donation? I'm going to try to do it without crying.
So, my father-in-law, Jerry Dragomez, passed away March 24th, will be a year. Jerry grew up in Seymour. He moved here from Pennsylvania. He grew up here in Seymour, actually right across the bridge. The flood of 55 took the bridge away. He served in the military. He left the military and came back from the Korean conflict. He went worked at Sikorsky's and decided he didn't want to do it anymore. He wanted to be a police officer. He went to the academy, became a state police officer, and he worked his way through the ranks. He raised 3 of his children. They all, Mary graduated from Seymour High. She was a swimmer. And Christopher and Matthew went to Holy Cross. He worked his way up. He retired as a state police captain. When my father-in-law passed away, we thought, how could we acknowledge him and what he believed in? And we started a scholarship through the Seymour school system in his behalf for children that wanted to go into the police field. And when we talked about putting the EMT and the police course into the town, into the school system, I thought of what a better way we can continue to honor a man who gave so much not only to his community, to his church, but was an excellent role model. And he, in fact, is the reason why he and Roberta are the reason why I got into politics. So we decided to make a donation for those that wanted not to only pursue it after they graduated, but before, and just follow it through and live to the legacy, pretty much to his granddaughter as well. So she can be something, so she can have something to be proud of her grandfather as well.
So sorry, I need everybody.
Yeah, on behalf of her father-in-law.
Father-in-law.
Thank you.
You second that, right?
No.
You second it, so do you accept his amendment?
Oh, yes. I will second that.
Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 8-0. 2022-2023 Seymour Public Schools budget. Dr.
About the athletic contract?
See, now I'm guilty of bouncing between the two. Yes. Yeah, Proactive Sports, LLC.
Yes, I'd just like to mention, this is a contract that we renew every year, but we're basically currently around 19,000. And we've got to go through the spring season. Due to COVID and a lot of the protocols and things that the athletic trainers had to do, we feel like the COVID funds, it's basically under the nursing, the medical part can take care of this. Any part that goes over that we can take it from ESSER funds, because there was quite a bit of protocol extra with all these 16, 17 different sports. So this is the contract that we have.
And in that, there is, I believe, a $5 per hour increase.
Yes.
Was that in effect beginning of the year? Or is that going into the spring?
I think going into the spring. I'll have to clarify it. exact price, because I didn't have this approved until November of this year, because in the beginning, because it hadn't been brought to the board.
So we did approve that.
We have approved
Back in
it.
November.
We're just trying to emphasize that we're gonna be going over, and because we're currently at 19,000, and the agreement was 20, but we're gonna have to have additional funds, but because of COVID, it's required a lot more with the COVID protocols, so thank goodness, that's what's caused extra already.
Right, okay, so it was 55 back
Yes, then,
in the beginning of the year.
Jay was right,
I have that.
okay?
So-
Just want to make you aware of it, of what's going on.
To the chair, I have a question. Yeah, so from August 1st to June 30th, it was $55 an hour, which I guess was an increase. This is a minimum of 2 hours. But I guess my bigger question is this something that we want to continue moving forward for next year? You know, we've gone through different waves of training, athletic training procedure. And I think I would just like to ask that we explore other options, you know, and/or if any of this money can be used with our COVID funds, which I think we are pretty tight on, but
Right.
if any of that money could be put towards COVID costs, because again, this is $5,000 or $10,000 that we didn't necessarily budget for, that is now going to continue to pick at our already under budget.
Right, and let's bring this contract two back again in May and let you decide exactly what the options are. If you want to definitely renew this contract, if you want anything else besides this contract, so let's just bring it back for further discussion. I just want to let you know that we're 19,000, the total cost is 20, but we've utilized that money, and like I said, they've done well.
And a lot of that was from the return to play activity.
Yes, it was,
that they
that's
had.
exactly, and that's where those specific COVID protocols had to be followed.
Which will go away.
That'll go away
Or-
now.
Well, where's what?
Yes.
Hopefully go away, yes. It's gone,
So the term of this contract is July to July?
yes.
Okay.
So we'll bring it back in May.
Probably should. RFP for that.
Yeah.
We could do RFP
You
for that.
absolutely could, yes.
Because I think too, one of the issues that we had at the middle school too was the return to play for the middle school athletes, and that fell on the nursing staff
Yes, it did.
and not the trainers.
Yeah.
Because we don't have trainers.
We didn't have
in the
enough.
middle school.
Right.
So that might be something too, when we look at this contract, we might need somebody to be in this building. Not in the building, but have middle school covered under this contract.
Yeah, I think it's important. That's why we got to bring it back, like you said, and let's look at it again. Probably.
Do we have an idea what the anticipated total cost of the contract will be by the time?
I would say possibly an increase in spring sports, no more than, I would think, about $4,000, $3,000 to $4,000. I'll let you know monthly as what they're turning in with the sheets.
Anything else on this?
To your question, I'm trying to remember the number of sports for the spring versus the number of sports for the winter. Because that obviously is an impact, because in the spring we have baseball, softball, track. I don't know if we have golf anymore.
Tyler mentioned golf tonight. I
We
was
still
kind of
have-
shocked by that. Yeah.
We still have the, okay,
And then the swimming.
no, the swimming is done in the fall and the winter. And we didn't have wrestling in the winter that we had in the past. So
Sure.
I'm trying to count the sports, right? That's it.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Moving on to the budget. Dr. Compton, I'm assuming.
Okay, we've discussed many different things in regards with the budget. I I think we want to try to present a number to the, basically again to the finance committee that basically that everybody can basically live with. We've worked very diligently with this reduction plan and trying to look specifically with a few retirements and how we can bring the percentage down. But that's currently where we are. That's why tonight with these few non-renewals that are on this agenda for tonight, I want everybody to understand that these were one-year ESSER grants. I mean, from the ESSER grant, they were one-year positions. The people knew when they took these positions, they were for 1 year only. I will say on behalf of tutors, you will be glad to know that we still have tutors that are in the Title I program. Those literacy tutors are very important, as well as the math. And also the SRBI program is going to be totally in place. We're doing everything we can to do as less damage as possible, but we have to cut from the 6.9 was what included everything that we have. But everybody has to realize that these ESSER grants, there were 3 of them. ESSER 1 is totally completed and zeroed out. We're currently in ESSER 2, and then ESSER 3 involves basically $100,000 in personnel, and then the rest is basically an HVAC air filtration type of grant. So I just want to just look, you know, when you look at, I kind of have shared basically a reduction type of attrition program in regards that could possibly definitely bring it down to 5%, and looked at 4.5% in regards to, you know, what could really be the lowest number. I'm going to speak very honestly about in regards with the mill rate. We have to, as Chris Bowen made a very nice presentation, we absolutely need to have the right percentages. This is something that First Select Woman, she didn't cause this. This has been going on, as we've said, for several years, of where the mill rate stayed the same, but teachers' contracts went up, and administrators and everybody's salaries went up. They're going up everywhere through Connecticut and throughout the country, and also with insurance premiums. So technically, with where we are, we have to have an increase, and we hope that, we know, I think that the Finance Committee is going to work with us, as well as the town, and that they'll put it out for the vote, and that our parents and our people will support whatever that is. Kind of basically where we are.
These non-renewals, were they factored into the 6.9% budget?
Yes, they were. Well, some of this were
So
actually.
sorry, to clarify,
Yeah, there's.
when we created our recommended budget, we factored in not renewing these people already?
These particular people were ESSER funds. There's one that is not, that does have to be a part of the reduction situation. We have more to talk about even in April, just the fact that we have 3 basic long-term subs. And we had 2 other positions that were in the ESSER grant, were for 1 year renewal, some were for 2. So that's why in April we can discuss more about it, or we can discuss it now.
Sorry, I just want a little more clarification. The non-renewals that are being recommended tonight, all of them, are those directly going to lead to a reduction of the 6.9%?
No.
Those specifically?
No, only one.
Okay.
Only one position, and the rest were ESSER funded.
Number 2, and that's number
Yes.
2 on this.
Yes, it is.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we know yet what impact for the classroom teachers this will have on classroom size, or are we still, is it too early to look at planning and moving teachers throughout the grades, which I know is quite common?
Right,
particularly in the elementary grades.
right. And in regards with that, we have the exact enrollment of the classes. We presented that in our budget presentation. That was actually presented. I can also put that up on the website. We have it here. It's a very reasonable class size. In a situation to where you're trying to close the gap, and the whole purpose of ESSER funds, was, as the parent discussed tonight, was to reduce class size in some situations. That's what these 3 teachers were. They reduced class sizes in the elementary schools. What I'm telling you is, with our budget, with the situation, we can't continue to do this. This was a one-time thing. It is what it is, and we have to move on about it. The research, what you presented tonight was very, very well said. But the bottom line is, with the children's classes, they're pretty reasonable. They really are, in all true fairness. We've given that to you before. I feel good about our amount of classroom teachers. But this tonight only includes people that were ESSER funded and one other reduction. And I just want to emphasize with these tutors, for example, it has nothing to do with their job performance. It's just 1-year contracts. So I want to make that clear. So it's hard to see a person's name on the list and they're not being renewed, but there's a certain protocol in regards with this business that you have to do. It hurts, but I have to bring the recommendation forward.
So in the enrollment analysis that was shared, that's for the 2021-2022 school year. So that's what we currently have. So we would be talking about, there will be a rejiggering, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because this is what we're looking at is current analysis. So we'll be losing 3 teachers.
Well,
lots of teachers
right,
at the elementary school
because
level
they
for
had been,
next year.
yes, they'd been added on extra because of COVID. Right?
Yeah.
They didn't exist before. It was the 1-year thing with the situation with COVID. And a lot of elementary schools did this. It's a great thing when you can afford it. And they did fund it. The grants to make this possible.
Dr. Khan, through the chair, what effect do we anticipate the non-renewal of the long-term substitute position having?
Well,
Because that's something we would have liked to have, correct?
Yeah, well, one of the situations, we've had 3 long-term subs. We'll talk more about that in April because that was a part of the grant. We just have to look at the remaining ESSER funds. Even those kind of positions, again, though, even if they would come back for next year, they would be, again, just for another 1 year because the monies will be gone. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Not exactly.
Okay.
I more want to know what the effect of not having that person in the schools will be.
As far as a long-term sub, will be okay because it'd just be like a general substitute. As far as these class size reduction, I think we'll be okay.
The long-term sub does not impact class sizes,
Right,
correct?
no, it doesn't. They just fill in. But these class size reduction made the elementary classrooms smaller in the lower grades, like first grade and second.
Yes. Kristen, Beth, Jay.
I just want to make connections between different parts of this meeting tonight. So we heard from the elementary schools about the implementation of the new math program, which is needed, and really being able for teachers to do observations of each other and those peer observations and the level-to-level observation. Having a building sub facilitates that because you have someone knowledgeable in the curriculum covering the classes while teachers can do that. So I would see that as an impact of not having a building sub.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that more later. This long-term sub tonight was just a person that was just to fill in for a position for a teacher's on leave. Specifically is this number 2 item. The teacher is on leave and this person is just filling in for the rest of the year. I think now that clarifies your question.
Yes.
Stefan, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I've got regular, permanent, long-term subs. There's 3 of them. So it's a multiple discussion.
Yep, gotcha.
Okay, that clarifies it.
Yes, thank
I
you.
think Stefan brings up a good point. I think we've seen a lot of numbers, and I think I'd ask if we're gonna have continued discussions that we talk specifically about impacts, because
we need to be transparent about what the impacts of the budget reductions are going to be. 6.9 doesn't mean much to parents, and as a parent of a kindergartner in Bungay who is now going to have increased class size, it's important for us to talk like that. I think it's important to talk about impacts, how we're going to compensate for those impacts, and what we're going to do to mitigate the impacts. We've heard a ton about numbers, but I think in the next presentation that we have, we really need to talk about how we're going to address some of the.
Yeah, and for example, I think everybody knows how transparent I am.
Yeah,
There is
absolutely.
nothing I don't share as long as it's legal. I am the most open person you'll ever find as a superintendent, because I think it's critical. One thing, though, about this reduction and this mitigation, for example, we have basically, for sure, 2 retiring teachers that we're not going to fill. And there are reasons. One is because based upon one position is currently here at the middle school, and it's totally justified. We have that worked out. Another person will be replaced at one elementary school because the amount of special ed children are going on to the middle school. There's 17 kids, 5th grade from Bungay that's coming here. We have 2 secretaries that are retiring that we're not replacing. And it's not easy, but it's trying to bring the number down from 6.9 to bring it down. I actually have a chart, but I'm not sharing it with the public tonight. But this is what it is. We have to have a plan to bring it down from the 6.9. And there are not very many people that's on this reduction chart, but it's just something that we have to address. And then another person is an instructional para that is retiring or that won't be coming back. And then, to be very honest, as I always am, we have some para educators that we haven't been able to fill positions in certain schools. And after looking back and working with the principals, there are a certain amount that absolutely don't have to be filled. There are some that has to be filled to meet IEP requirements. So we're all trying to work together. This has been shared with the principals and other administrators. Ms. Tins and I have been very open. We shared with everybody, but we can't stay up 6.9. You know, I've been given a responsibility to come back with a plan, and we have to cut somewhere. And we're trying to cut where we do less damage as possible. Okay? I just wish these ESSER funds, I wish they could go on forever, but now we know the crisis that we're in right now. The ESSER funds will be gone.
No, I was just going to clarify for Mr. Bohemian, could I believe that this was a...
Good. I'm good with everything that's been said so far. I have a question that I want to direct more towards Kristen as the finance chair and you as well. And please, and this is certainly no, I don't even want to say disrespect towards Dr. Compton, it's nothing of the sort. I want to talk more as a board on this. The strategy of cutting from the 6.9 that we all unanimously agreed on not long ago and a lot of work went into, the strategy of cutting from that before the Board of Finance has made a formal say seems, to me, doesn't sit well with me, but I'm not privy to all the conversations that have taken place. I want to hear from Kristen, because I know she will be very honest about this. How do you feel about our strategy of making decisions before the Board of Finance has spoken?
When our decision is being made based on an improvement in the amount of information we have, then I think it's okay. So for example, if we find out that something is actually going down in price, because you know that we're budgeting so far in advance of actuals. So when we know, for example, that we're going to get a retirement, then I think it's appropriate to make that adjustment in the budget before it gets put to our public hearing. However, when it comes to making decisions that would impact our students, my personal belief is that we should fight for every penny we need and that we approved in our budget in January. So I really only believe in making adjustments that are based on improvements in the information that we have available to us. That having been said, as you you well know, Finance Board will do what they will do. And so we can fight for, but we have not voted on an adjusted
No,
budget.
you have,
I-
still 6.9.
I understand, but we're
Yeah.
talking a lot right now.
Yeah.
Again, all due respect to you, Dr. Compton, about things that we're going to do before any of us, or many of us, have even spoken about it or heard about it.
You have.
Now, to your point about retirements, of course, that is a reduction in what we need, but that's, in what we need to spend, but that's not necessarily a good reduction in our staff size. And
No,
we've heard a
well,
lot about,
Let me rephrase it, because you're absolutely right. When I'm talking about retirement and making adjustments based on.
are you talking about like a
additional
cheaper
information.
teacher?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
But we're
I'm
also,
not
but
necessarily
we've also
saying,
been
"Oh,
floating
they're
around
retiring,
a
we're
lot of
eliminating."
talk of attrition, and we
Yes.
sort of showed our hand, and we could talk about the strategies of it, whatever, and believe me, I am well aware of how hard it is to create a budget. I've sort of been a part of it and been on the, a keen observer of it for several years now. I understand that there's a lot of give and take that goes
Yeah.
between the town and the Board of Education, the people, the Board of Finance. There's a lot that goes into this. I think it's sort of a mistake for us to show our hand before we have been directed to do anything.
Yeah,
And I think, I'll make my point now, we had a lot of public, well, we had some public here tonight, maybe not as much as would have been nice considering some of the other things that have brought public out. But we had a lot of people talk passionately about the need to maintain, at the minimum, maintain where we're at now. And that passion needs to be directed to the Board of Finance right now, because everybody here shares the same passion, right? We want smaller class sizes. We want to maintain our guidance and our paras and everything that we need. But the ball is in the Board of Finance's court right now, and they need to hear that there is a passion to fully fund our education at the benefit of our students. So, sorry.
No, don't apologize.
Is there any urgency to take action on these items tonight, or is it?
I would take action on this, what I've recommended in regards to the non-renewals. This is very important. We need to do this, what I've done here tonight. That doesn't impact the whole.
Right, and just
This
for
is-
everyone's.
Yeah, I want to be clear that I'm not, I would love to keep these people, and I think that, if we could go back in time and rework it in a way that we could, I think we maybe should have explored that, but at this point, I'm not angry about this. I'm more angry about the fact that we are already talking about how we're going to slash our budget before anything's been decided.
I'm with you.
Can I just
We have to take it
do a
on.
follow-up? I hear what you're saying completely. I don't think we have showed our hand. I don't think that we are planning to make cuts. That is not a vote that's on the table tonight.
Understood.
I think there is an expectation that we're coming back to the Board of Finance with a smaller budget, but I think we're not there yet.
Okay.
We're not there yet.
We're not in these.
And I agree with you. It
Okay.
is our duty to fight for what we need.
I just don't want to talk before it's too late.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could though, could we talk about, to Beth's point, about impact on students? Because in our budget book, there was scenarios brought out for next year that, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Compton, did account for the lost ESSER positions. So can I just come over and show Dr. Compton? I want to make sure that I'm not misstating it, because I do see some staff names here that are in the discussion for non-renewal.
Yeah.
But it's labeled pretty clearly, right? 2 teaching sections were reduced at Bungay for next year, 1 teaching section was reduced at CLS.
Yes, that's exactly right. And
So, I
that's
just
what's
wanted
on
to
here
share.
tonight. That was in the actual budget.
Right, this is in our
Proposed
budget
budget.
book developed on the 13th of January. So we're talking about kindergarten classes. Of course, we don't know exactly how many kindergartens, but it's an estimate. We're talking about kindergarten classes of 19, first grade classes of between 18 and 20. Second grade, we're talking about class sizes at Bungie of about 22, 23, lower at Chatfield at 17 or 18. Third grade, we're talking about class sizes of 19 to 20. Fourth grade, we're talking about class sizes between 20 and 22. Fifth grade, we're talking about class sizes at Bungie of about 21 and at CLS about 23 or 24. So nobody should walk away thinking that we're going to have elementary school class sizes of 24,
That's right, and this, like I said, these particular ones were 1 year, the 3 teachers, it was a 1-year contract, it's a 1-year situation. I'm not trying to show our cards, I'm just trying to say, if I'm charged with a reduction attrition plan, I was very honest, I just shared some of the ideas of what we could do.
Bottom line, it's not,
Yeah.
she could show whatever she wants, the 9 of us have to.
Yep.
That's exactly
Understood.
right,
Understood.
but I think I have to be very honest and very forthcoming with, if we reduced, what could we reduce?
Yep, gotcha.
I have a couple questions of information that doesn't need to be answered tonight, but
Yeah.
that I'd like to see. I'm concerned about attrition in terms of not replacing retirees as a means to establish a budget. I think that's too random. So I'd like to see some differences between the savings from each retirement of filling at a lower step position versus the savings of eliminating the position. Even for our non-certified positions that we may be thinking about, not filling retirements or not filling vacant positions, I'd like to see either an organizational chart or some kind of information about how that workload would be reallocated, or how, what positions are vacant versus being eliminated. And then in terms of getting new information, like Mrs. Harmeling said, do we have timelines for when we get an update on insurance costs? I know we're negotiating the bus contract. Do we know when that new information is coming in?
No, but we pretty much know it's going to be probably 12%.
And is that calculated in, or is that an adjustment that we have to make? That's
That
for the
was
bus.
calculated in at 12%.
Okay.
12%, yeah. And same thing here with this chart.
12% for insurance.
Health.
Yes.
Bus, I don't think we have.
Yes.
I'd say yes.
But reminder with the buses, it's flat. So whatever we're offering today will not look the same next year. It just can't with the rising cost of buses. So whatever that is, I don't think that they've met to discuss that, but that's an important thing to point out.
If I could build on Ms. Bruno's request for a timeline, when is our timeline for talking about the bus contract, the bus routes, et cetera, just so we have a point in time where we know we're going to be talking about that, because we know we have to. We don't exactly know when we'll talk about it yet.
We're going to be scheduling the special committee meetings very soon. I'd like to get those scheduled. So one of the things I just want to say to the board and everybody else, we have a certain financial responsibility in regards with notifying staff and so forth, in regards with certain obligations. So we just have to make sure that we're financially, that we're stable and doing the right thing. And that's why this little small reduction type of plan was the best that I could do and cause less damage.
Right, so this first round of letters is non-renewal. The second one,
If
would
there are
be
others that are sent.
May something, I think is the date.
Yes,
That
May
letter-
1st is the date.
May 1st. So I hope that everything is done by then, because then we have an issue on our hand if we haven't gotten a budget approved and letters that haven't gone out. So then it becomes a state statute issue.
We've made a lot of progress. I mean, we've done, we've gotten some good work accomplished.
Yeah, I guess I don't think this should, I don't know why we're bringing that up.
No, we don't.
We know it's a statutory thing.
Yeah.
I just read the numbers. The numbers couldn't go any higher than the numbers are. So there would be other things we would do.
Yes. It'll be okay. We'll get through it.
Yeah. Could I just make a quick build on the long-term subs? So the long-term subs, to the best of my recollection, we have lost them and had to replace them several times. So they haven't really given us the continuity of always being present in the buildings. My general feeling, I really support long-term subs because I support having more certified adults in our schools. But until we're ready to make an investment and actually treat them like the teachers they are, we're not gonna get long-term subs when they're being paid marginally more than an everyday sub, without the flexibility of being an everyday sub, of, you know, an on-call sub. So support the position, but I don't know that we're ever gonna really maximize its value until we make a bigger investment in it.
Okay. Dr. Constant, I'm just wondering about the intern program, because we had talked about the intern program versus the long-term subs and the cost of that. Because of the interns obviously are with us for a full year. They're training to be teachers.
Yeah,
That are in our buildings, and they can serve many capacities.
Exactly, and
Thinking
that-
about what Mrs.
and that-
Bruno said, they could be there for the the PD.
and that's an
days, the
excellent
interns,
point.
and-
We've talked about that, Ms. Tins and I, of opening that back up for next year and
We have-
asking your approval.
We have 5 applications on my
For-
desk right now
for
from, I
interns.
believe it's Sacred Heart for interns. We-
Right, and the cost of that
Is
is
slightly cheaper
slightly
than
cheaper, right?
a full year
Right.
building sub, which is different than a long-term sub. A long-term
Right.
sub is for somebody who's out, but it's a little bit cheaper, and you do get a commitment because it's their program. Now, there is some student teaching attached to it, you know, at the end, but.
Well, that's the other thing I was gonna say about student teaching, but
Yeah,
Right.
so it,
because
you know, they have to be carefully
different colleges
placed.
have different requirements
do.
for that.
Yes,
because-
they do.
So we'd like to bring that back for
Right,
consideration as well.
because there's some colleges that if they expected student teaching during the time they're working with us, then we lose them
Correct.
Yes.
for 6 or 8 weeks, where
Correct.
there
We
are other
usually
colleges where
At the end,
they finish their intern year, then they do their student teaching someplace
That's
else,
correct.
so we don't
Or with
lose
us,
them.
but we get them for the year. Those are the ones we like.
So we
Those
want
are the
to,
ones that, yeah.
Those are the ones we like.
so we want to bring that back to
Okay.
talk for discussion, okay?
You're good? Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, we have 3 potential actions to take on these non-tenured, non-renewal positions.
I will make a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to non-renew 4 non-tenured teachers. Stephanie Policio, Amy Lebetkin, Melissa Marini, and Max Salazar at the end of the 2021-22 school year in accordance with the provisions of the Connecticut General Statutes, Section 10-151. I further move that the superintendent be directed to communicate this action of the board in writing to aforementioned teachers, and that the superintendent of schools be authorized to respond on behalf of the board to any request, if required by law or for other data which may be forthcoming from the teacher and/or his or her representative pursuant to applicable provisions of Connecticut General Statutes, Section 10-151.
Motion by Kristen,
I'll second.
second by Ed. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Passes 8-0. Next item is the long-term sub position.
This is just the person that is finishing out a year for a teacher that's on leave.
Make a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to non-renew 1 non-tenured teacher, Mary Pleasant, at the end of the 2021-22 school year, in accordance with the provisions of the Connecticut General Statute, Section 10-151. I further move that the board superintendent be directed to communicate this action of the board in writing to Mary, and that the superintendent will be authorized to respond on behalf of the board for any request if required by law or for any other data which may be forthcoming from the teacher and/or his or her representative pursuant to applicable provisions of Connecticut General Statute, Section 10-151.
Motion by Jay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Harmeling. Any discussion on this one?
I just wanted to point out that it always looks so bad when it is in black and white here, but this is expected from this person. This person is a long-term sub. They get hired and they become part of the teacher contract, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a formal thing that per statute goes out. This is not the loss of a position.
Anyone else? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed, abstentions, passes 8-0. Next up is the non-renewal of ESER tutors.
Let me explain, there's one, Julian Stugard, that has to be just marked through, will not get, you just need to leave that person off because they are being paid through Title I funds. They were first hired with ESSER and then they were switched to Title I. And so when we done the agenda with the situation with which grant it was coming from, this person is not a ESSER tutor, they're a Title I. So Julian Stugard, just remove her name.
Is she being non-renewed, Dr. Compton?
No, she's not being non-renewed,
Okay.
she's paid with Title I.
Okay.
And it was confusing because she had originally been hired by ESSER, then she switched her to Title I as a literacy tutor.
I will make a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to non-renew two ESER 2 tutors, Julie Nitzel and Emily Rong, at the end of the 2021-22 school year.
Okay, a motion by Ms. Harmeling,
I'll second it.
second by Ed. Any discussion?
Where were these tutors and how are they assisting students and how are we compensating for them not being there? I know we're
They're
talking.
extra, they were extra ESSER.
No, I understand that part, but they were in, what schools were they in and what were they doing?
Elementary, one was in Bungay and the other one was in Chatfield Presty.
So how will we address them not being there?
Because we have other Title I instructional tutors.
So that we don't need these people?
Well, they were extra and they were wonderful, I'm
I
just
guess
saying.
I'm
Yeah.
getting frustrated because we never talk about the impacts of what this means for our community and our students.
Well,
Does
it's,
this mean that the caseload will go up for the other tutors?
No.
This has no impact?
no, these were extra just because of COVID, just because of one-year ESSER to close the gap.
I have to build on what Beth is saying because I hear you and I understand what you're saying. I get that they were extra, that means they were not present in our school system prior to COVID.
That's right.
So we have the ESSER grants, we get them, but they're not extra. They've been working, they've been tutoring students, right? So,
It was extra funding.
yes, extra funding. So
Is the
the
proper
question
word to
is,
say.
I think you said it beautifully, will the caseload for other tutors increase? Or is this a case of we were able to give services for students who might not otherwise have qualified for tutoring services, which absolutely has happened in the past and is a wonderful thing. So you have a student who's not identified as being in a tier that needs tutoring, but there's caseload room. But the bottom line is, I hear what you're saying. There are students this year who are getting tutoring that if we kept 2 people, they would also have tutoring next year that they now won't. Or is it a case that a tutor will now tutor 2 students at a time or 3 students at a time as opposed to 1 student at a time? Again, 1-to-1 better, but the question is, are there students who have tutoring this year who should and would have it next year, except for the loss of these positions? That's really what the question is.
Well, specifically with Title I, you have specific identified students because we're not school-wide projects, so they're specific kids. In regards with these, they also did other tier
Like some
levels.
rusty, I hate to say rusty, but
It's actually just to provide the support.
these were non-Title I tutors, so they were allowed to work with students that may have come back with
Got behind.
rusty math or reading skills, word ID, letter ID, number facts. They may have come back from coronavirus pandemic leaves with some rusty skills. So could everybody use, I'm rusty every day, but that they were hired for non-Title I. Dr. Compton is correct. Title I students are identified.
But again, the situation, the sadness is, ESSER funds doesn't go on and on. This was,
Can I just comment on that? I understand the grant issue. I understand the financial impact. I just want us to talk as a board about what's really going to happen in the classroom September 1, 2022.
Yeah.
Because we're going to hear issues and complaints and concerns from communities about, well, my student or my son or daughter, had this benefit, what talking about it in a way that it's reality, right?
That we can
can't-
make
you know,
the
we can't.
transition.
Now, if budget wasn't a concern, we could continue these tutors, but we'd have to fund them out of our regular district budget.
Yes.
So at this point in time, we're gonna reduce the tutors available, which will have an impact, whether that be whatever it is, and those rusty skills will continue, but we know their need is still there, right?
Well, again, that need is driven by student data, so
Have to look and see.
we have to really look and see. We don't have the end of the year data yet.
Right.
I
To
can't
quantify that
Right.
with
So I know there's no good answer, I just want us to kind of, I preferred if we talk a little bit more about what kind of effect these things are gonna have next year. That's all, and maybe we don't know because we don't have the data, but I think it's really important that we always tie it back to how this is gonna impact our students. That's all I'm trying to, so.
I agree. Did you have something?
No.
Okay.
I just have feelings about grouping that may differ from Mrs. Harmeling's. So-
I don't have any feelings about it. I'm just setting it as an example.
Right, but I disagree that one-on-one is always better. That's all.
Sorry, slip of the tongue. Okay? It was just an example, like, would we have to go from 1 to 1 or 1 to 2? But, okay.
There's benefits to modeling in groups, so.
Perhaps this is because I'm like the new guy around here, but I think that we could all benefit from talking with a little less jargon and talking a little bit more as human beings, and when we discuss the impact of some of these things. And I think the public would probably benefit from that a lot as well. And it's a little selfish on my behalf as well.
Anything in particular?
I was gonna ask that.
No, but when we talk about, these people are excess, they were ESSER grants, now they're going to be moved on to Title I. I don't know what the hell we're talking about. Like, it takes me a minute to catch up. We need to talk about these people are in our schools now, they're serving a purpose. We don't know if we definitely need them next time, but it would be nice to have them. Like, to me, that's a better way of talking about it.
Right, and they served a
We can
very,
get into, there's plenty of documentation and there's plenty of time to get into the, specific programs and how things are paid for, but to Beth's point, like, if we talk about impact, we should talk about it in a way that everybody could relate to.
well, they served a very good purpose. They've been very good.
I hear completely. We don't have end of the year data in. I don't think there's anybody who thinks that the data's gonna be good and that the need for tutors will continue. So what I would just like to put out there is that we've all been going along with the ESSER 3 grants are for infrastructure and air conditioning. And I would like that to be a discussion that this board has as well, because maybe we don't value air conditioning over tutors. Maybe we value tutors and more SRBI interventionists over, so I hope, and that is not a discussion we have to, well, I mean, it is a discussion we should have, because we've heard, do we talk about the HVAC system? Do we not talk about it? Do we look at the grant? And we just haven't had that conversation yet to date. So, because personally, I'm all for people over mechanicals, even understanding that I know it's hot in the school buildings.
I think the ESSER 3 is limited by
But we
personnel.
haven't had a discussion about it, Chris. We haven't seen it. We know it's not only for HVAC. We know
No, I
there's
know.
other stuff in there.
I know, is that something maybe you could send out, the breakdown?
Yeah, we'll talk more about it. We need to really move on and wrap this up if we can. Okay. And I'll give you all the information about ESSER 3.
Okay. All right, so we have a
ARPS.
motion, anything else? All right, hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed, abstained, 8-0. Okay, next up, we have some items for correspondence, and then item 10 was Board of Ed comments and superintendent reports. I'll be real quick. I did get a chance to go to the high school. I think Mr. Freund left. I was pretty impressed. I saw Mrs. Bruno there, Dr. Compton, Vonda. Sorry if I'm forgetting anybody, but I have to say, it was pretty impressive to see the offerings that we have that I wasn't aware of. 35 courses that go towards college, multiple different APs and honors, but it's just a real comprehensive school. And I believe Mr. Freund said it hasn't had an open house since 1998.
I mean, yeah, he had a Freudian slip, but 2019 was the last one.
And I have to say that the tour guides who were, I believe, juniors and seniors, your daughter was one of them, were very good. They spoke very well for kids of that age. The other thing, and I don't know if Mr. Schimel wants to talk this, but the relocation committee is underway, moving from Bank Street to the high school. There's a committee for that. Over the next week and in the beginning of April, I'm going to go to the PTA meetings to talk about budget stuff, just answer any questions, just state the facts. Everybody's welcome. But just to kind of get our face out there. And then the other thing I had was actually what Mr. Draganis talked about. It was the honor roll. We had a couple
Yes.
emails this week about that, and
We're going to get the honor roll from the principals, and we're going to recognize.
I'd really like to see that, and
Yes.
retroactive back to the beginning of the year. That's it for me. Any board member comments? Go down this.
I would just say I agree with the honor roll sentiment.
Yeah, I don't know why we ever got rid of that, but that was before. Go ahead. I was going down this way.
I know you were, but it's an honor roll
What do you
thing.
mean?
I don't, there was, first of all, the honor roll to do or not to do has never been something that we voted on as a board, right? But we certainly have had past conversations as a board about what gets a person on the honor roll. Part of the problem of the middle school honor roll was that half the students were on the honor roll. And it became, it didn't become special anymore. I mean, it was the Incredibles movie, you know, when everybody's special and nobody's special. So what I would like to see is that it really recognizes our students. And the letter we got from a parent that said we recognize so many different things, debate team, athletics. We have to recognize our achievers, but let's make sure that we're really recognizing our high achievers.
We recognized half the town of Seymour tonight. We recognized a lot of people tonight.
Yeah, we sure did. We sure did. So I support that as well, Mr. Chairman.
Good. Shannon, anything? Kristen?
I would just add in, also having attended the high school open house, from the board member perspective, what I was impressed with were the support that from, you know, all the administration, the guidance department, teachers, department heads, paraprofessionals, students, not just the link crew, but the cafeteria was staffed with students representing their activities. So just everybody was there, the performing arts club in the hallway, the art students doing art in the classrooms, the robotics club. Everyone was showing off what makes the school special to them, and it was really amazing. It was great.
Well, just the relocation committee is going to be meeting again Thursday. Go ahead.
Is there an anticipated budget that's been allocated for the relocation?
We're gonna look at some of the bids that came in for moving some of the stuff, and we make the, you know, that committee.
Recent bid, has we put this budget on the town? Oh, thank you.
Excuse me?
She said she thinks it's budgeted on the town side.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, that was, yeah, I didn't know
Because
that was
it's,
something.
that's a town committee.
Okay.
And Mr. Stanek was elected chair.
Last but not least, anything for you?
Why, can you read my face or something?
No, not at all.
I am not a fan of moving central office to the high school, and I'm not a fan of us not having a say in it as a board. And that's not news to anybody, so. Gotta be a different solution. I think it's,
That's it.
I mean, I'm waiting, like, so is it gonna be bonded? Does it need to go, is it gonna have to go to a vote? Like, it just feels like all of this is happening and we don't know process.
Would you care to take center stage, or?
So as you know, central office is at 98 Bank Street, on the 3rd floor, right?
Yes.
Not 88.
I gotta stop you for 1 second, we might have to add this to the agenda.
Agree.
I'll stop.
Yes.
We'll come back to that, or if you'd like to add it.
No, it's too late.
Okay. All set? And the other thing, tomorrow night, Seymour High girls in East Hampton, if anyone wants to drive there. I believe it's 6:30 or 7, the game.
6:30 games. But there, we have another meeting tomorrow, so unfortunately, I cannot make that, which I wanted to. I mean, the first one. You're gonna be with me.
Okay.
Will I? Okay.
Yeah, we have the words tonight.
That's true, that's true. Okay, Dr. Compton?
Yeah, let me be very brief. I know it's been a very long meeting. I'd just like to say that the Athletic Hall of Fame for Seymour High School will be April 30th. If you're interested and you want to attend the banquet, Paul Roy, please let him know. If you want to, let me know as well. I've been attending, I've held 4 listening forums with teachers throughout the school district. All 4 places. It's been very successful. I've really enjoyed getting to talk to several of them individually in a type of forum. Great input, great vision. They're very supportive. They're very understanding, too, of us in this budget situation we've been dealing with. Also, this Thursday, we have a communication advisory committee that we're going to be meeting at 6:30. And I would also like to mention again that the open house, the 8th grade orientation for the new freshman class at Seymour High School was absolutely outstanding. The crowd was just amazing. The parents really enjoyed it. There was a nice overview in the beginning, and then they had the various breakouts into the various sections of the building. Just went off really well. I'd just like to also mention that, we will be getting together with these committees, and we'll get those scheduled ASAP. Okay?
Any questions for Dr. Compton? All right. Item 11, information. We have the activities of recognition, some hiring, some resignations, and an Appendix E position. Any comments or questions on that? Perfect. Item 12, public comment, round 2.
Sorry, I got to. So I'm listening tonight and I'm hearing an increase in special education. I'm hearing the referrals are increasing, and I'm hearing, okay, these tutors were hired with ESSER funds, which I understand, but it was for a reason. Our kids missed from October through, mid-February. That's why those ESSER grants were there, was to catch our students up, and we're having increased class sizes, and my fear is if we don't look at our processes that are in place for SRBI and what we're doing, that our special education, instead of being like the triangle that it's supposed to be, is going to explode. So I have to say again, I understand that those positions are not able to be kept, but I do think we have to look at our processes in Seymour. We come here and we hear reports and it's wonderful, but I think that we really have to look at those processes, and if they were in place, I think we would know exactly what these tutors were doing. So I guess I respectfully ask that as a district, we look at some of those processes a little more finely. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Is one of the tutors that got let go. I don't understand. I get it. I understand okay, she's not a Title I, but I don't know what the other, she got hired at Bungay School, but yet it was supposedly the Chatfield ones that got let go. It's fine. She's fine with it. I'm just confused so there were 2 other tutors, and they're all literacy tutors at Bungie. My daughter is the only math tutor. She helps Kim Barton. The other ones all work for the literacy department. So I'm confused that how the other ones that got hired, the other tutors at Bungie School, how they are still there. Are they on a different grant than my daughter was? She got hired in April, and I'm just concerned. I don't understand how it was all working. So I was just, like I said, she's fine with it. She's going on, she's getting her master's, and everything is fine. She wants to come back. She would like to sub if she can next year, not a long-term sub or whatever, but but I was just very confused about the whole process, which is why I'm here and why she's not, because, she's at school actually, she's taking classes tonight, so I didn't know what the difference between a Title I and what Emily was hired for at Bungie School, although she did apply at Chatfield, but she got hired at Bungie. So
I'll be happy to just sit down and explain more. You can come into my office or we'll talk on the phone. I think that would make you have a better understanding. Title I grants are grants that are ongoing. The ESSER is not. So that was the difference. It is confusing. I would be the first one to tell you that. And like I said, just the options open about other jobs.
Yes, no, I
Okay.
she understands it.
I'm not supposed to speak during public comment, but I just wanted to just try to clarify for you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you guys listening
to me earlier, and I fully can appreciate the challenges that we're faced right now as a town, and I recognize that this is not the time to be talking about adding to our budget. We're talking about retracting from our budget. I completely get that. I fully intend to participate in all the other meetings across town and urge everybody else who I'm friendly with and other taxpayers to come out too. Because my concern that I just want to share a couple of caveats with what was shared tonight. So while the budget going forward with class sizes does seem extremely reasonable, if you're sitting here not knowing all the professional lingo that goes into these research studies, but when they talk about class size and small, what they're really talking about, and again, these are proven golden standard U.S. Department of Education studies from before COVID. So it's very, very good, solid research to be using to consider as we move forward. They're talking about 18. 18. They're not even talking about 20. And when we look at what's going on, what typically has happened, at least for me as a parent, and I fully understand working in other districts as well, what happens is we start a budget and we start out with, okay, we're gonna have 4 first grade classrooms and we're all at 19, 18, 20, and whatever it ends up working out, right? And then we have a lot of students that matriculate in. And we've heard that. Some of those students have special education requirements, some of them don't. This is a common theme that has happened, especially at Chatfield Low Presti here, for several years. I can speak personally from my daughter, who's now in 3rd grade. When she started in kindergarten, we were in a classroom that was always 19 or 20. We always end the year closer to 23. It's just what keeps occurring. I know that they've talked about it at the PTA meetings. There's not much that we can do about it as far as being aware who's going to come in, but I think that we can take a look at being a little bit more transparent at the possibility that this could continue to happen. My concern, of course, is definitely similar to the fact that what this research tells us about these class sizes, it's so critical because these are pre-COVID things that we know worked well. We're in a post-COVID situation. The concerns that our kids had during the pandemic are so much greater now that it's over. We're back to normal life and normal expectations, and many of our students don't have the cognitive and non-cognitive skills necessary to hit the ground running, let alone they've had a lack of consistency, which is not due to any of our issues, but is in fact something we're going to be dealing with as a district. So I share a lot of concerns from my fellow special education colleagues that work in district, my fellow teachers and professionals. This is gonna be really challenging for them. It already was. And now we're talking about it being even more. So I really just want to share that. There's not necessarily much that we can do with it, as there is what it is. This is what it was. But I think I share some of the board's concerns. We need to look at the impact of this and understand that while it might not be a good time for this discussion, it's necessary, because you better believe these concerns, based on the research before the COVID issues, exacerbated what was already there. This would result in issues. Class sizes of more than 20 result in issues with kids and numbers for the rest of their academic careers. So I just want you to consider that, because we only had 2 years at Pungay, and some of those numbers are still above 20, and they're talking about 18 consistently. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm just gonna reiterate what I said before.
You know, there's an uptick in special. Jane. Me or her? Oh,
Care Bernard, 21 Hidden.
Jamie Bailey, 15 Oriole Lane. I just want to reiterate on the whole, there's an uptick in the special ed referrals right now. And the special ed department in this district is not firing on all cylinders. I'm sorry, it's not. I've had my own experiences, which I won't get into, but the special ed department, there's already problems. There's 5 complaints.
We're not gonna talk personnel.
Huh?
We're not gonna talk personnel and stuff like that.
I'm talking to you guys as a whole. What are you talking about?
I understand. It's a comment, it's not issues and referrals, we're not gonna have that this.
Well, you guys said that you guys are having an uptick in special ed referrals. That you guys said that, so I'm saying.
Critical about the system, and that means we're being critical about people, and we're not allowed to talk.
But how are we gonna fix the problem if we can't discuss it? And I'm trying to be very respectful. I really am. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just saying there are issues in that department, and I feel like we need to fix those so those children, the referrals that you guys do get, you guys can give them the services.
We're not involved in day-to-day operations, so if there's problems like that, I would just, email Dr. Collins.
It's gonna be my office. We'll have a meeting.
Well, I'm just trying to say there's, you know, the special ed department, I think that I've come here multiple times and I've said, you know, you guys are the Board of Education, there's issues, somebody should look into it, and not one person has. I've been here multiple times.
It's not our job to do, please. Can we make a motion to adjourn?
That's Dr. Collins' job.
Maybe we will meet with you. Okay, we'll schedule it now.
Well, she doesn't have to get all mad, I'm trying to be polite and I'm voicing.
It's enough. It's enough.
Is there anyone else for public comment?
Wow.